Imagine waking up one morning, your mind racing with thoughts' endless worries, unresolved doubts, and the weight of the world pressing down on your chest. You've tried everything: meditation, deep breathing, even long walks, but nothing seems to bring the calm you desperately seek. Then, one day, while you're sitting in silence, something shifts. A quiet realization sweeps over you, a simple truth: your peace has never been lost. It has always been within you, waiting for you to stop fighting, stop searching, and simply let go. But what if the path to this peace is more unexpected and more radical than you ever imagined? What if the very thing you've been holding on to, the one thing you fear losing the most, is actually the key to your freedom? Stay with me, because the answer might just change everything you thought you knew about peace. You don't want to miss what's coming next. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism in Every Moment. Your support helps us create more powerful, life-changing content that will continue to inspire and guide you on your journey toward inner peace. 1. The battle within: how to stop fighting yourself. There's a battle we all face, one that no one can see, but everyone feels. It's the fight that rages inside our minds, where doubt, fear, and anxiety wage war against our sense of peace. We often find ourselves trapped in this internal struggle, convinced that the key to happiness lies in external changes. We tell ourselves, if only I could get that job, fix my relationships, or find the perfect life balance, then I would finally be at peace. But the reality is, no amount of external success or validation can silence the storm inside if we haven't first learned how to stop fighting with ourselves. Imagine, for a moment, standing on the edge of a cliff, feeling the wind whip around you. The noise of your own thoughts is deafening, drowning out everything else. You feel like you're being pulled in every direction, at once gripped by the need to fix things, to prove something, to escape from discomfort. But what if, instead of fighting the wind, you simply allowed yourself to be still? What if you stopped trying to control the forces inside you and simply let them be? Is where the journey to peace begins, by ceasing the endless internal struggle. Most of us don't even realize how much energy we spend fighting our own thoughts, our own emotions, and our own imperfections. We convince ourselves that to be at peace, we need to fix everything. We constantly battle the fears, doubts, and insecurities that arise, believing that each one must be defeated before we can move forward. Yet, the more we fight, the more exhausted we become, and the more disconnected we feel from the very peace we seek. The truth is, peace is not something to be fought for or fixed. It's something that can only be discovered when we stop fighting ourselves. This battle within is born from the illusion that we are incomplete, that we are somehow broken or not enough. We chase external validation, striving to prove our worth, thinking that once we achieve a certain goal or meet a certain standard, peace will magically appear. But it doesn't work that way. Peace is not an achievement. It's a state of being, one that arises only when we let go of the need to fix, control, and prove. What if, instead of fighting, we simply allowed ourselves to rest? What if we stopped engaging in the inner war and simply accepted ourselves as we are: flawed, imperfect, and yet whole? The peace we seek is not outside of us. It's already within, waiting for us to stop resisting and start embracing. The more we fight, the more we lose touch with this truth. But the moment we choose to let go of the struggle, we make space for peace to settle in. This isn't about passivity or complacency. It's about recognizing that true strength comes not from fighting the storm, but from standing firm in the face of it. It's about finding the courage to face your fears, not by trying to control them, but by acknowledging them and choosing to move forward despite them. When you stop fighting yourself, you stop feeding the fire of anxiety, self-doubt, and insecurity. You make room for something much greater: inner peace. Imagine a quiet lake, untouched by the wind. The surface is still, reflecting the beauty of the world around it. But when the wind blows, the water stirs. The surface becomes turbulent, and the reflection is distorted. The more the wind blows, the more chaotic the lake becomes. Yet beneath the surface, the water remains still, unshaken, and calm. Your mind is like that lake. When you stop reacting to the winds of your thoughts, fears, and emotions, you will find a deep, unshakable stillness within. The battle within doesn't have to be fought. It can be surrendered. The moment you stop resisting, you open yourself up to a sense of peace that has always been there, waiting for you to discover it. Let go of the need to fight. Let go of the need to control. And in that release, you will find the peace you've been searching for all along. When you stop fighting yourself, you stop draining your energy on battles that were never yours to fight. You stop carrying the weight of self-doubt and insecurity, and instead, you start living in alignment with your true self. This is the path to freedom, to a peace that is not dependent on the world around you, but rooted in the depths of your own being. It is a peace that cannot be disturbed by the chaos of life, because it is not fragile. It is unshakable. So, take a deep breath. In this moment, give yourself permission to stop fighting. Allow the storm within you to pass without needing to control it. And in the stillness that remains, you will find the peace that has always been yours. Peace is not something to attain. It is something to allow. When you stop fighting, you stop suffering. And when you stop suffering, you step into the peace that is already within you. This is the first step on the journey to unshakable peace. It begins within. And when you stop fighting, everything changes. The battle ends, and peace begins too. The illusion of control, letting go of external expectations. We are conditioned to believe that the key to peace lies in controlling the world around us. From the moment we wake up in the morning, we begin the delicate dance of trying to arrange everything just right to control our environment, our schedule, our relationships, even our thoughts. We think, if I can manage everything, everything will fall into place. And this illusion of control becomes the foundation upon which we build our lives. Yet no matter how tightly we grip the reins, life always finds a way to slip through our fingers, leaving us tired, frustrated, and more disconnected from our true peace than ever before. Think of a river. It starts as a small stream, winding its way through the earth. It faces rocks, boulders, and obstacles, but it doesn't resist. The river bends and flows, finding its way around whatever it encounters. The river doesn't try to push the stones away, it moves around them, adapting to what comes. The river's strength doesn't lie in its resistance, but in its ability to flow with the current. Life, too, is like a river. We are taught that we must push against the current, that we must force life to bend to our will. We set rigid goals, believing that if we can just control enough variables, we will finally be happy. We strive to mold our world, our relationships, our careers into something that fits our ideal picture of success and fulfillment. But in doing so, we overlook a profound truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from learning to flow with life, to trust that, even when things don't go according to plan, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The desire to control is rooted in fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of being left behind. We think that if we can control our circumstances, we can eliminate uncertainty. But in truth, the more we try to control, the more we lose our sense of peace. This relentless striving, this clinging to an illusion of control, drains us. We become exhausted, stretched thin by the weight of expectations, both our own and those of others. We forget that peace isn't something we can force. It is something we allow. There's an art to letting go, a skill in releasing the need to control what lies beyond our reach. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering to the natural flow of life and trusting that we are always guided. The need to control arises from the belief that we are not enough as we are. We think that only by holding tight to our plans, our possessions, our image, can we secure our peace. But peace is not something we must hold on to. It is something that we allow to settle within us when we stop fighting against life's inevitable uncertainties. When we stop trying to control every aspect of our lives, we stop resisting the natural flow of things. We learn to accept the twists and turns, the unexpected events, and the surprises that life throws our way. We stop trying to mold everything into a perfect shape and instead begin to appreciate the beauty in life's imperfection. This is where true peace lies, not in the control we hold over our circumstances, but in the acceptance of them as they are. Think for a moment of a time when you tried desperately to make something happen, when you pushed and forced an outcome, only to find that the harder you tried, the further away your goal seemed. You may have felt frustration, anger, even hopelessness. But then, at some point, something changed. You let go. You surrendered to the moment. And in that moment of release, you found clarity. You found peace. It wasn't in forcing the outcome, it was in allowing it to unfold as it would. This is the essence of the Buddhist teaching. The path to peace is not through force, but through acceptance. When we stop demanding that life conform to our expectations, we open ourselves to the possibility of true freedom. We free ourselves from the constant pressure to control, and we begin to experience life as it is, unpredictable, imperfect, but ultimately beautiful in its imperfection. It is important to note that letting go does not mean being passive or indifferent. Letting go means trusting that, while we cannot control everything, we can control how we respond to what comes our way. It means choosing peace, choosing acceptance, even in the face of the unknown. When we stop trying to control everything, we discover that life has a way of working itself out, often in ways we could never have imagined. The universe has its own rhythm, its own flow, and when we align ourselves with it, we tap into a deep, unshakable peace that nothing can disturb. Imagine the freedom of living without the constant pressure of control. Picture yourself waking up in the morning without the burden of trying to control your day. Instead of making plans with an iron grip, you approach each moment with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever comes your way. You trust that everything, even the challenges, will serve your growth and lead you to exactly where you need to be. This freedom is not a fantasy. It is available to you, right now, if you are willing to let go of the illusion of control. The next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the need to control, take a deep breath. Pause for a moment. Release your grip and let the current of life guide you. Trust that, even if things don't go according to your plan, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. In that moment, you will find the peace you've been searching for. You'll feel it in your body, in your mind, and in your heart. Peace is not something you can force. It is something you allow. When you let go of the illusion of control, you make room for something much greater, peace that comes from within, untouched by the outside world. Peace that is always present, always available, and always yours. It's time to stop fighting the flow of life. It's time to let go and trust that, in surrender, you will find your way through. Detachment. protecting your peace without closing off, we often hear the word detachment and associate it with distance, coldness, or even indifference. It's easy to misunderstand detachment as a form of shutting down, of closing our hearts and minds off from the world. But true detachment, when practiced with wisdom and compassion, is not about rejecting life or shutting ourselves off from others. It is about freeing ourselves from the grip of attachment, freeing ourselves from the need to control, possess, or cling to people, outcomes, or even our own emotions. This is the path to real peace. At the core of detachment is the understanding that nothing in life, whether it's a relationship, a success, or an object, can ever truly fulfill us if we depend on it for our happiness. We give so much of ourselves to external things, believing that our peace, our sense of self-worth, and our joy depend on them. We attach ourselves to the idea that if we achieve certain things or hold on to certain people, we will be happy. But in doing so, we become bound. We give away our freedom, our peace, and our power to external circumstances. Imagine a bird in flight. The bird moves freely through the air, navigating the winds, never clinging to the branch or the ground. It rests only when it chooses to, without fear of falling. The bird is detached, not from the world, but from the need to control its environment. It moves effortlessly, gracefully, because it knows its true freedom comes not from clinging, but from letting go. This is what true detachment looks like. Detachment is not about withdrawing from life or people. It's not about building walls or isolating ourselves. In fact, true detachment allows us to love and connect more deeply because we are no longer attached to the outcomes or expectations of others. We learn to love without the need for validation, to give without the expectation of receiving, and to engage without fear of loss. It's a profound shift that transforms the way we experience life and relationships. When we practice detachment, we create space for others to be who they truly are, without the pressure of our expectations weighing on them. We stop trying to shape people and situations to fit our desires, and instead, we accept them as they are. This does not mean we stop caring. It means we care without attachment to the outcome. We learn to love without needing to possess. We give without expecting anything in return. Think about the times when you have clung to someone or something, when your happiness was dependent on their presence, their actions, or their approval. In those moments, how did you feel? Did your attachment bring you peace, or did it bring you anxiety, fear, and disappointment when things didn't go as you expected? True peace comes when we stop seeking to control or hold on to what is fleeting. It comes when we release the need to be attached to outcomes, when we stop defining our worth by what we have or who is around us. In practicing detachment, we begin to realize that our peace doesn't come from others or from circumstances. It comes from within. We are not defined by our possessions, our achievements, or even our relationships. These things are beautiful, but they are not the source of our inner peace. The more we try to hold on, the more we entangle ourselves in suffering. The more we learn to let go, the more we open ourselves to the fullness of life. Detachment also allows us to experience life with a sense of ease and joy that is unaffected by external conditions. When we release the need to control, we create space for flow. We stop trying to force things into place and instead allow them to unfold naturally. It's like standing at the edge of a river and letting the current carry you. There's no need to paddle against the current to fight the flow. Instead, we trust that the river knows its way, and so do we. This doesn't mean we live passively or without effort. It means we no longer exhaust ourselves by trying to control things we cannot change. We focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our responses, and our actions, while releasing the need to control everything else. It's in this release that we find true strength. We no longer need to fight the world, because we understand that we are not at the mercy of it. Our peace is within, and no external force can take that away. In relationships, detachment doesn't mean we stop loving or caring for others. It means we stop trying to change them to meet our needs. It means we accept them as they are, free of expectations. We love them, but we do not possess them. We support them, but we do not depend on them for our happiness. In doing so, we create space for genuine connection, for love that is unconditional and free. When we detach, we stop living for the approval of others. We stop seeking validation from external sources. We stop letting the judgments and opinions of others dictate how we feel about ourselves. We realize that our worth is inherent and unshakable. No person, no opinion, no situation can define us. We are enough, just as we are. The key to detachment lies in understanding that nothing is permanent. People come and go. Circumstances change. We are constantly in flux, and the things we attach ourselves to will eventually change, fade, or disappear. The more we attach ourselves to these temporary things, the more we invite suffering into our lives. But when we learn to let go, when we embrace the impermanence of life, we discover a peace that is unshakable and eternal. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours down, and the world around you is chaotic. But you stand firm, unshaken, because you know the storm will pass. You know that beneath the clouds, the sky is always clear. This is the power of detachment. The storms of life may come, but they cannot shake your inner peace. You stand firm in the knowledge that you are not the storm. You are the sky. Detachment is not about escaping life. It's about embracing it fully, without fear, without attachment. It's about finding freedom in the present moment, trusting that, no matter what happens, you will remain rooted in your peace. This peace is yours to keep, and nothing can take it away. When you let go of attachment, you open yourself to a life that is truly free, truly alive, and truly at peace. So, let go. Release your grip on the things that weigh you down. Let go of the need to control. Let go of the fear of loss. And in that release, you will find the peace that has always been waiting for you. Peace is not something to attain. It is something to allow. Let go, and you will discover a freedom beyond measure. 4. The power of silent awareness, observing thoughts without judging. There's a quiet power in stillness that we too often overlook. In a world that never stops moving, where distractions are constant, and noise fills every corner of our lives, it can be incredibly difficult to find true peace. We are trained to react quickly, to fill every silence, to avoid discomfort. But the deepest peace lies not in avoiding or suppressing our thoughts, but in observing them with awareness, without judgment. Think of your mind as a vast sky, and your thoughts are like clouds passing by. The clouds come in different shapes and sizes, some dark and heavy, others light and fluffy. Some storm in quickly, while others drift lazily. But no matter how many clouds there are, the sky remains constant, vast, and unaffected. Your mind is like this sky, and your thoughts are like the clouds. The key to peace is learning to observe these clouds, these thoughts, without allowing them to define who you are. We often believe that we are our thoughts. When a thought arises, whether it's about the past, the future, or some judgment about ourselves or others, we tend to latch onto it. We start to identify with it, shape our emotions around it, and allow it to control our actions. But in doing so, we lose our true nature. We become entangled in the web of our thoughts, caught up in the illusion that they are who we are. In reality, we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness in which those thoughts arise. Silent awareness is the practice of stepping back and watching the thoughts come and go without becoming attached to them. It's a practice of noticing, simply noticing what is happening in your mind without getting involved. This is where the power lies. When you stop reacting to every thought, when you stop identifying with every emotion, you create a space of peace, a space of clarity. You begin to see your thoughts for what they are, fleeting mental formations that have no permanent hold over you. Consider for a moment the act of simply sitting in silence. The moment you sit quietly, you may notice the flood of thoughts that arise. They come rushing in like waves, each one pushing against the shore of your consciousness. But what happens if you don't immediately engage with them? What if, instead of reacting, you simply let the waves come and go, knowing that they will pass, as they always do? In that space of non-reaction, something remarkable happens. The storm of your mind begins to settle. The thoughts lose their power, and you remain untouched. This is the essence of silent awareness, the ability to observe without judgment. When we observe without judgment, we stop labeling our thoughts as good or bad, right or wrong. We stop judging ourselves for having certain thoughts or feelings. This is crucial because judgment only creates more mental noise. We judge ourselves for not being perfect, for having doubts, for feeling anxious, and in doing so, we make the thoughts stronger. The more we resist them, the more power we give them. But when we stop judging our thoughts and simply let them be, we release their grip on us. We allow ourselves to experience life without the constant filter of judgment. We stop trying to control what we think, and instead, we begin to simply observe it all. This is where true freedom lies. In the space of non-attachment to our thoughts, we find clarity. We find peace. To observe without judgment means to be compassionate with yourself. It means accepting whatever arises in your mind without the need to fix or change it. Thoughts of fear, doubt, anger, or frustration will come, but they are not you. They are temporary, like clouds passing across the sky. You are the sky. The sky does not resist the clouds, it simply allows them to pass through. And when the clouds are gone, the sky remains clear and vast. This practice is not about suppressing thoughts or emotions. It is about acknowledging them without giving them control over your actions. It's about being present with whatever arises, without trying to change it. When you let go of the need to judge or control your thoughts, you create a space for them to dissolve on their own. They lose their power, and you reclaim your peace. The beauty of silent awareness is that it allows you to fully experience each moment without being overwhelmed by it. It gives you the ability to be present with life, without being carried away by the currents of your thoughts. In this space, you are free. You are free from the tyranny of your mind, free from the need to analyze every thought or feeling. You are simply present, and in that presence, you find peace. There is a profound stillness that exists beneath the surface of our busy minds. This stillness is always there, waiting for us to recognize it. It is the space where clarity arises, where wisdom is born, and where true peace resides. When we practice silent awareness, we tap into this stillness. We let go of the noise, the distractions, and the judgments, and we connect with the quiet power that lies within us. Think of the times in your life when you have been completely present, when you weren't caught up in your thoughts, when you weren't analyzing or judging, but simply being. Perhaps it was in a moment of nature, or during a conversation, or while doing something you love. In those moments, didn't you feel a sense of peace, of clarity, of connection to something greater? That is the power of silent awareness. It is always available to us, if we choose to stop and simply observe. The practice of silent awareness is a gift you give yourself. It allows you to detach from the noise of the world and reconnect with your true nature. It helps you see your thoughts for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and ultimately inconsequential to your sense of self. When you practice this awareness, you step out of the cycle of mental turmoil and into a place of deep peace. You allow yourself to be present with whatever arises, without the need to react. And in that space, you find clarity, freedom, and a peace that is unshakable. So take a moment now to close your eyes and simply observe your thoughts. Notice what comes and goes. Don't judge it, don't try to control it, just watch it. Feel the peace that comes when you allow your mind to simply be. This is the power of silent awareness, and it is always available to you, in every moment. When you let go of the need to react, you open the door to the peace that lies within. And in that peace, you will find everything you've been searching for. 5. Letting go, not weakness, but courage. In a world that often glorifies strength, resilience, and the constant pursuit of more, the concept of letting go can seem foreign, perhaps even weak. We are taught that to succeed, we must hold on, fight harder, and never give in. We are told that to survive, we must control, accumulate, and protect at all costs. But what if the true path to strength, peace, and fulfillment lies not in holding on, but in the quiet courage to release? Letting go is often mistaken for weakness, as if it's a surrender to the forces outside of our control. But in truth, letting go is an act of profound strength. It is the courage to face life's uncertainties without clinging, to embrace the ebb and flow of the universe without fearing what we may lose. Letting go is not about abandoning or running away. It is about releasing the illusion that we have to hold everything together, that we have to control the outcome of every situation. It is the recognition that true strength lies in our ability to flow with life, to adapt, and to trust that everything, even our losses, is part of a larger, beautiful design. Think of a tree in a storm. The wind howls and the branches bend, but the tree does not fight the wind. Instead, it bends with it, allowing the storm to pass without resistance. The tree does not hold on tightly to its leaves. It lets them fall when the time comes. It is in the letting go that the tree finds its balance. It survives not by resisting the storm, but by surrendering to its forces. In the same way, we too must learn to surrender, not to be passive or weak, but to find the strength that lies in releasing our grip. Letting go requires a deep trust in life and in ourselves. It requires the courage to step into the unknown, to release our attachment to outcomes, and to embrace the freedom that comes with surrender. We are not meant to control every part of our lives. The idea that we must manage everything is a burden that exhausts us. It creates tension, stress, and a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. We push, we strive, and we chase, thinking that we must control everything to be safe, to be happy. But what we often overlook is that the very act of holding on, of grasping tightly to what we think we need, keeps us from experiencing the peace and joy that are already available to us. Letting go is not a one-time act. It is a continuous practice, a choice we make moment by moment. It's the decision to release the need for perfection, the need to control, and the need for approval. It's the ability to accept ourselves as we are, with all our imperfections and flaws, knowing that our worth is inherent, not dependent on the approval of others or on our achievements. When we let go, we stop defining ourselves by what we have or what we've accomplished. We stop tying our happiness to external circumstances and start finding it within ourselves. This act of letting go extends beyond possessions or achievements. It also applies to our relationships, our fears, and our expectations. So much of our suffering comes from the attachment to people, to the belief that others are the key to our happiness, or that we must hold on to them tightly in order to feel secure. But when we cling too tightly, we strangle the very thing we seek to protect. We suffocate our relationships, our joy, and our peace. True love, true connection, does not come from control. It comes from acceptance, from allowing others to be who they are, without the need to change or possess them. Similarly, we hold on to our fears, believing that, by holding on to them, we can protect ourselves. We are afraid of what might happen if we let go of our worries, of our need to plan, of our fear of the unknown. But by holding on to these fears, we remain trapped. They control us. They limit our freedom. Letting go of fear is not about erasing it completely. It is about no longer allowing it to define us. It is about recognizing that fear is just a passing cloud, a temporary feeling that, if we don't engage with it, will dissipate on its own. The courage to let go is often most needed when we face loss. Loss of a job, a relationship, a dream. We fight against the pain of letting go, thinking that by holding on to the past, we can keep it alive. But the truth is, nothing in life is permanent. Everything is in constant flux. When we let go, we free ourselves from the past and open ourselves to the future. We allow ourselves to heal, to grow, and to move forward with the wisdom that comes from surrendering to life's flow. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about embracing the truth that we are not defined by our possessions, our achievements, or our past. We are free to create, to grow, and to live fully in the present moment. By letting go of the need to control, we discover the peace that is always within us. It is not something we need to earn or fight for. It is a state of being that arises when we stop resisting, when we stop clinging, and when we simply allow life to be as it is. The path to peace is not through force or control. It is through surrender. It is the act of letting go that allows us to discover our true strength, our true power. When we let go, we find freedom. Freedom from the need to prove ourselves, freedom from the fear of loss, and freedom from the illusion that we must control everything in our lives. It is in this freedom that we find peace that is unshakable, unbreakable, and eternal. So, take a moment to ask yourself, what are you holding on to? What are you afraid to let go of? What in your life is draining your energy, your peace, and your joy? Now, imagine what it would feel like to release it, to let go of the burden, the fear, the expectation. Feel the lightness that comes with this release. Feel the freedom that arises when you stop fighting, when you stop controlling, and when you simply surrender to life. In that surrender, you will find the peace you've been seeking all along. 6. The invisible chains of people-pleasing, breaking free from an early age. We are often taught the importance of making others happy, of being agreeable, and of avoiding conflict at all costs. This ingrained desire to please, to gain approval, becomes so natural that it's easy to forget how much of our energy and peace we sacrifice in the process. People-pleasing can feel like an act of kindness, a way to show love and compassion to others. But underneath it, it is driven by fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of disapproval. Fear of not being enough. At the core of people-pleasing is the unspoken belief that our worth is determined by how others see us, by how much we are able to give, and by how often we sacrifice ourselves for others. This belief traps us in a cycle of self-neglect. We begin to prioritize the needs, desires, and expectations of others over our own, losing touch with who we truly are in the process. Over time, this sacrifice of self becomes an invisible chain, binding us to the opinions and desires of others, and gradually, the joy and peace we once had become a distant memory. The problem with people-pleasing is that it never ends. No matter how much we give, no matter how many compromises we make, it is never enough. There will always be someone with new expectations, a new demand, or a new way we can improve ourselves to fit their ideal. We think that by meeting these demands, we will finally be loved, respected, or appreciated. But in reality, the more we bend and contort ourselves to please others, the more we lose our authenticity, and the deeper we fall into the trap of seeking external validation. This cycle is exhausting. It drains us physically, mentally, and emotionally. We give and give, often to the point of depletion, but when we look inward, we find nothing but emptiness. Our peace is compromised. Our sense of self-worth becomes tied to the approval of others, and as a result, we are never truly at peace. We are constantly in a state of waiting for someone's approval, waiting for a compliment, waiting for validation to confirm that we are enough. The key to breaking free from this cycle is understanding that our worth is not determined by others. It is inherent. Our value does not come from how much we give or how much we sacrifice for others. It comes from the simple truth that we are enough as we are. People-pleasing is a form of self-rejection. It is an attempt to earn love and respect by sacrificing our true selves. But in doing so, we give away our peace, our energy, and our authenticity. True love and connection come from a place of self-respect, not self-sacrifice. When we love ourselves first, we set healthy boundaries, and we stop seeking validation from others. We learn to say no when necessary, not out of fear, but out of respect for our own well-being. We stop molding ourselves to fit others' expectations, and instead allow ourselves to be who we truly are, free from the burden of needing approval. This is where true peace begins. Breaking free from people-pleasing requires courage. It requires the courage to face our fear of rejection, and the courage to stand in our truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It means learning to trust that the people who truly care about us will love us for who we are, not for how much we can give or how much we can change to meet their needs. It means accepting that it's okay to disappoint others because we are not responsible for their happiness, only our own. Imagine what it would feel like to live a life where you no longer sought approval from others. Imagine waking up every day knowing that your worth is not tied to someone else's opinion of you, but to the love and acceptance you give yourself. Imagine a life where you can say no without guilt, where you can prioritize your needs without feeling selfish, and where you can be fully present in your relationships without the constant anxiety of wondering if you're doing enough. This is the freedom that comes with breaking free from people-pleasing. It's important to understand that breaking free doesn't mean abandoning others or becoming indifferent to their needs. It means learning to love them from a place of wholeness, not from a place of sacrifice. It means giving without losing ourselves. It means saying yes because we genuinely want to, not because we're afraid of disappointing someone. In this way, our relationships become healthier, more authentic, and more fulfilling, because they are no longer based on false sacrifices or unspoken expectations. The journey to breaking free from people-pleasing starts with small steps. It starts with recognizing the invisible chains that bind us and understanding that we are not beholden to anyone's opinion but our own. It starts with learning to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to prioritize our own well-being. It starts with embracing the uncomfortable truth that we do not need to please anyone to be loved. We are worthy of love simply because we exist. As you begin to break free from the need to please others, you will notice a profound shift in your life. You will feel lighter, more at ease, and more connected to your true self. You will begin to attract people who love you for who you are, not for what you can give. And most importantly, you will rediscover the peace that comes from living authentically. This peace is yours to keep. No one can take it from you as long as you stop giving it away in the pursuit of external validation. So take a moment now and reflect. What parts of your life are you living to please others? What invisible chains are you holding on to, and how is that affecting your peace? What would it feel like to release those chains, to live for yourself, and to set the boundaries that will protect your peace? You have the strength to break free. You have the courage to stop seeking approval. And in doing so, you will find a peace that is unshakable, a peace that comes from knowing that you are enough, just as you are. 7. The art of saying no, protecting your peace with boundaries. Saying no is one of the most powerful, yet difficult, acts of self-care we can offer ourselves. In a world that often equates kindness with compliance and generosity with self-sacrifice, saying no can feel like an act of rebellion. We are conditioned to believe that by saying yes to others, we are being good, kind, and loving. But in truth, the opposite is often true. By saying yes when we really mean no, we give away our peace, our time, and our energy, all for the sake of others' approval. This isn't love, this is self-neglect. The art of saying no is rooted in understanding that we cannot pour from an empty cup. It is a recognition that our well-being must come first if we are to have anything left to give to others. When we fail to set boundaries, we become depleted, resentful, and overwhelmed. We may believe that by saying yes, we are helping others, but in reality, we are simply building up a reservoir of frustration and fatigue within ourselves. The more we sacrifice our own peace for the sake of others, the less peace we have to offer anyone, including ourselves. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you learned to say no without guilt. What if you could protect your time, your energy, and your peace by saying no when something doesn't align with your values, your needs, or your well-being? Saying no isn't about rejecting others. It's about making a conscious choice to protect what matters most to you. It's about being kind to yourself, about understanding that your energy is sacred, and that you have the right to preserve it. When we say no, we create the space for something far more valuable to emerge: clarity. Boundaries aren't walls meant to shut others out. They are tools to help us navigate life with wisdom and balance. When we say no, we are not rejecting the people around us. We are protecting the relationship with ourselves. Saying no is not about being selfish. It is about honoring our own needs so we can be fully present and give more authentically to others when we choose to say yes. It's essential to understand that boundaries are not about control, they are about self-respect. They are the invisible lines we draw to protect our time, our mental space, and our emotional energy. Without boundaries, we lose ourselves in the endless demands of the world around us. Without boundaries, we become a vessel that is constantly drained, with nothing left to offer. But with healthy boundaries, we can create a life that is both nurturing and fulfilling. We learn to say yes to the things that truly align with our purpose and our peace, and we learn to say no to the things that drain us. In relationships, boundaries are especially important. Without them, we can easily fall into patterns of overgiving, of losing ourselves in the service of others. We may feel that we are responsible for others' happiness, or that we must always be there for them, even when it comes at the expense of our own peace. But when we fail to establish boundaries, we unknowingly teach others to take us for granted. We become the ones who are always available, always saying yes, while our own needs go unmet. Over time, this leads to resentment and burnout. True love, in its purest form, isn't about constant sacrifice. It's about knowing when to give and when to protect yourself. Healthy boundaries allow us to love others more deeply because we are not giving from a place of depletion. We are giving from a place of wholeness. Saying no to someone in a compassionate, respectful way is not a rejection, it is a gift. It is an acknowledgement that both you and the other person deserve respect and space to be who you truly are. It is a way to honor both your needs and theirs. The courage to say no also allows us to say yes with more authenticity. When we say yes to everything, we say no to the things that truly matter to us. But when we begin to say no to the things that drain us, we create room for the things that align with our purpose, our values, and our passions. Saying no becomes a form of liberation because it frees us to say yes to the things that nourish our soul, that inspire us, and that bring us joy. Saying no is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration that we are worthy of our own care, attention, and time. It is a choice to stop being a people pleaser and start being a peacekeeper. It is about protecting the life we've worked so hard to build, about creating the space to breathe, to heal, and to grow. The more we practice this art of saying no, the more we begin to cultivate a life that is aligned with our truest self. A life that is not shaped by others' expectations, but by our own desires and needs. If saying no feels uncomfortable, it's likely because we've been conditioned to believe that it's wrong or selfish. But the truth is, we are doing ourselves and others a disservice when we fail to set boundaries. When we say yes out of obligation rather than desire, we create a cycle of resentment, burnout, and frustration. But when we say no with clarity and kindness, we create a foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and balance. There will always be moments when we feel the pull to say yes, to overextend ourselves, to please others. But in those moments, we must remember that our peace is non-negotiable. We must honor our own needs and trust that the right opportunities will come when we create space for them. Saying no is not a rejection of life, it is an affirmation of our own worth. It is a commitment to living a life that is true to who we are, not who others expect us to be. So, take a moment to reflect. What do you need to say no to? What are you holding on to out of obligation or fear? What would your life look like if you started saying no to the things that drain you and yes to the things that nourish you? Saying no is not the end of your kindness or your generosity. It is the beginning of a life where you can give from a place of abundance, not scarcity. It is the beginning of a life where you are free to be yourself, fully and authentically. And in that freedom, you will find the peace that you have been searching for. The power of silence, why you don't have to defend yourself in a world that values expression, action, and constant communication. Silence is often misunderstood. We are taught to justify, to explain, to defend. We are led to believe that if we don't speak up, if we don't fight for ourselves, we will be misunderstood, overlooked, or even dismissed. But there is a powerful truth that many overlook: silence can be more powerful than words. There is strength in not defending yourself, in allowing others' words to pass over you without engaging in the endless struggle for validation or approval. Think of a candle flame in a still room. When the air is calm, the flame burns steady and strong. But when the wind blows, the flame flickers, falters, and often dies. Now, imagine the candle in a room where no wind disturbs it. The flame stands firm, glowing brightly and unwavering. This is the power of silence. When you stop defending yourself, you allow your light to burn more brightly. You remain steady and unmoved by the winds of criticism, judgment, or misunderstanding. Defending yourself constantly is exhausting. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much you argue, explain, or justify, the emptiness persists. The more you defend, the more you become entangled in the conflict. The need to explain yourself comes from a place of insecurity, a belief that your worth is dependent on how others perceive you. But the truth is, you do not need to defend your existence. You do not need to prove your value to anyone. You are enough as you are. Your worth is inherent, and nothing anyone says can change that. Every time you feel the urge to defend yourself, ask yourself why. What is it that you're trying to protect? Is it your ego, your pride, or your fear of being misunderstood? The more we cling to these illusions of self-protection, the more we distance ourselves from our true peace. When we stop defending ourselves, we stop feeding the very insecurities that drive the need for validation. We stop trying to prove that we are worthy. Instead, we stand firm in the knowing that our worth is already established, without any need for external confirmation. Defending yourself is not about standing up for what's right. It's about needing others to see you in a certain light, needing them to approve, to validate your experience. But when you stop defending, you create space for the truth to stand on its own. You no longer need to explain your actions or justify your decisions, because you know that the truth is self-evident. You no longer need to prove that you are deserving of respect, because you already know that you are. The silence you offer in these moments becomes the loudest declaration of all. Imagine being in a conversation where someone criticizes you. The natural instinct may be to fight back, to argue, to defend your position. But what if, instead, you chose silence? What if you allowed the words to pass through you without reacting? What would happen if you let the conversation unfold without needing to win, without needing to be right? The silence would speak volumes. It would say, I do not need to engage in this battle. My peace is not for sale. This is the power of choosing not to defend yourself. It is the power of letting go, of surrendering the need for approval, and of standing firm in the calm that comes when we are at peace with who we are. In relationships, the need to defend ourselves often arises from a desire to be understood. We fear that if we don't explain ourselves, the other person won't see us clearly, won't understand our intentions. But when we constantly feel the need to explain, we are inadvertently placing our sense of self-worth in the hands of others. We are giving them the power to define us. When we stop defending ourselves, we reclaim that power. We allow others to see us as we truly are, without needing to shape their perception through words or justifications. This does not mean that we allow ourselves to be mistreated or disrespected. Boundaries are important, and sometimes we need to speak up to protect our peace. But the key difference is that when we stop defending, we stop trying to control how others see us. We stop relying on external validation to affirm our worth. We stand tall in our truth, knowing that we are enough, even if others don't understand or agree with us. The act of not defending yourself is an act of profound courage. It is the courage to stand in your truth without the need to explain it to anyone. It is the courage to allow others to form their own opinions without feeling responsible for their perceptions. It is the courage to let go of the need to be right, to let go of the need for approval, and to trust that your worth is not determined by others' opinions. When we stop defending ourselves, we open the door to true freedom. We stop living for the approval of others and start living for ourselves. We stop fighting against the world and start embracing it, knowing that we are enough as we are. This freedom comes from understanding that we are not defined by the judgments of others. We are not defined by the need to be understood. We are defined by our ability to stand firm in our own truth, in our own peace, and in the knowledge that we are worthy simply because we exist. So, the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, take a step back. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I trying to protect? Then, remind yourself that nothing and no one can take away your peace unless you allow them to. You are already whole, already worthy, already enough. Let your silence be a declaration of this truth. When you stop defending yourself, you step into the freedom of simply being who you are. And in that space, nothing and no one will ever disturb your peace again. 9. The secret practice that turns setbacks into wisdom. Life has a way of throwing us off course. We experience setbacks, losses, and disappointments that often feel like insurmountable obstacles, crushing our spirits and leaving us questioning everything we thought we knew. In those moments, it's easy to fall into despair, to view these challenges as punishments or signs that we are failing. But what if the real purpose of these setbacks is not to harm us, but to teach us something far greater than we could have learned in times of comfort and ease? What if every difficulty, every failure, and every loss holds within it a lesson that can transform our pain into power? The truth is that setbacks are not the end of the road, they are part of the journey. They are not signs of defeat. They are invitations to grow, to deepen, and to expand beyond the limits we have placed on ourselves. When we approach life with this mindset, we see setbacks not as obstacles, but as stepping stones, guiding us to a place of greater wisdom and resilience. Every challenge we face, no matter how difficult, holds the potential to unlock new insights, new strengths, and new perspectives. Imagine for a moment the earth during a drought. The land is dry, cracked, barren, and lifeless. The ground is thirsty, desperate for nourishment. Then, the rain comes slowly at first, a few drops, followed by a steady downpour. What seemed harsh at first, what appeared to be an unwelcome force, is exactly what the land needed. The rain seeps deep into the soil, nourishing the roots, and bringing life back to the earth. Without the drought, the land would not have been ready for the rain. Without the dry season, the soil would not have been prepared to absorb the nourishment it desperately needed. In the same way, our setbacks prepare us to receive the wisdom that is waiting for us. The pain we experience softens us, makes us more compassionate, and allows us to grow in ways that would have been impossible without the challenges. This is the secret practice that turns setbacks into wisdom, seeing the potential in every difficulty, in every struggle. It is the ability to look at life's challenges and say, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? When we approach setbacks with this mindset, we no longer see ourselves as victims of circumstances. Instead, we see ourselves as active participants in our own growth. We realize that every hardship is an opportunity for transformation. It's not about avoiding pain or trying to eliminate suffering. It's about accepting that pain is a part of life, and in that acceptance, finding the strength to move forward, wiser and more capable than before. Consider the moments in your life when you faced difficulty. Perhaps you lost something important, experienced failure, or were faced with a challenge that seemed impossible to overcome. In those moments, it's natural to feel overwhelmed, to question why this is happening, or to wonder if you'll ever come out on the other side. But as time passes, you may look back and realize that those experiences taught you something invaluable. Maybe they taught you patience, humility, or resilience. Maybe they showed you a side of yourself that you never knew existed. Maybe they opened your heart in ways that nothing else could have. The setbacks that once seemed like punishments were actually shaping you into the person you were always meant to become. The key to transforming setbacks into wisdom is not in fighting the pain, but in embracing it. It's about allowing yourself to feel the discomfort without letting it define you. It's about acknowledging that, while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond. You can choose to respond with strength, with grace, and with the belief that every experience, no matter how painful, is an opportunity for growth. When you do this, setbacks cease to be burdens. They become the soil in which your wisdom, resilience, and compassion take root. It's important to understand that setbacks don't happen to us, they happen for us. Life is not out to get us, but to teach us. Each challenge we face is an opportunity to build the muscles of patience, determination, and understanding. These qualities don't develop when life is easy, they are forged in the fire of adversity. Just as a diamond is formed under pressure, so too is our strength and wisdom honed through the difficulties we encounter. The setbacks we face are the training ground for our inner power. They push us to dig deeper, to reach higher, and to become more than we ever thought we could be. When we embrace setbacks as opportunities for growth, we stop seeing ourselves as powerless. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstances. We see ourselves as warriors on a journey, each challenge we face strengthening us, shaping us, and preparing us for the next chapter of our lives. Life is not about avoiding obstacles. It's about learning to navigate them with grace, to rise after every fall, and to keep moving forward, no matter how many setbacks we encounter. Reflect on a setback in your life that, at the time, seemed like the end of the road. How did it feel? What thoughts did it trigger? And now, with the benefit of hindsight, what have you learned from that experience? How has it shaped you? When you look at it through the lens of wisdom, you may begin to see that what felt like a setback was actually a step forward. It was the universe's way of teaching you something you needed to learn in order to move closer to your true self. This shift in perspective is the secret practice that turns setbacks into wisdom. It's the practice of seeing the opportunity within the adversity, the lesson hidden within the struggle. It's the practice of choosing to rise every time we fall, of choosing to grow every time we face a challenge. It's the practice of trusting that even in our darkest moments, there is something to be gained, a lesson to be learned, a strength to be built, and a wisdom to be uncovered. So, the next time you face a setback, remember this: it is not here to break you. It is here to make you stronger, to help you evolve, to bring you closer to your true power. Embrace it. Learn from it. Let it transform you. For in every setback, there is an opportunity to grow, and in that growth, there is the peace, the wisdom, and the strength that will carry you forward on your journey. 10. How stillness reveals the path forward in a world that constantly urges us to move, to act, to chase. It's easy to forget the power of stillness. We are conditioned to believe that action is the path to success and fulfillment. We are taught that in order to find our way, we must push forward with relentless speed and energy. Yet, in the stillness, in the quiet moments when we stop trying to force things, lies the very clarity we seek. It's counterintuitive, isn't it? We've been raised to believe that to move forward, we must be active, busy, and productive. But when we are in a state of constant motion, our minds become cluttered with noise, and our hearts become clouded with fear, doubt, and impatience. We begin to lose sight of our true path because we are too focused on the next step, too preoccupied with what's ahead to simply be present. We rush through life, believing that speed and action will lead us to where we need to go. Yet in doing so, we overlook the one thing that can truly guide us: stillness. Stillness isn't inactivity, it's the space where clarity is born. It's the place where we reconnect with our inner truth, where we find the answers that have always been within us, waiting to be heard. When we stop the endless pursuit of more, when we stop rushing toward a future that has not yet arrived, we make room for the present moment to speak to us. In that space, the fog begins to lift, and the path forward reveals itself with quiet certainty. Think of a misty morning. The fog is thick, the path is unclear, and you can't see the way forward. If you try to rush, if you try to force your way through the mist, you risk stumbling, losing your balance, or heading in the wrong direction. But if you stop, if you pause and breathe, the fog slowly begins to clear. The path that once seemed hidden is now visible. The journey forward becomes clear, not because you forced it, but because you allowed the stillness to do its work. Life is like this. When we are caught up in the noise of our thoughts, in the pressure of our goals and expectations, we can't see the next step. We are too caught up in the rush, too focused on the destination, to notice the subtle guidance that surrounds us. But when we allow ourselves to be still, when we stop trying to force life into a particular mold, we create the space for clarity to emerge. The next step is revealed, not because we chased it, but because we were patient enough to allow it to unfold. In the stillness, we begin to hear the quiet voice of intuition. This is the voice that has always been within us, guiding us toward what is right for us, but it's often drowned out by the noise of our busy minds. The more we rush, the more we ignore this voice, thinking that we need to figure everything out with logic and effort. But true wisdom doesn't come from constant striving. It comes from pausing, listening, and trusting that the answers are already within us, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Stillness also allows us to release the need to control. We often think that the path to success, peace, or happiness lies in controlling every aspect of our lives. We make plans, set goals, and try to force everything into place. But in doing so, we fight against the natural flow of life. Stillness teaches us that we cannot control everything. Some things are simply beyond our influence, and trying to control them only leads to frustration. When we stop trying to control the outcome, we open ourselves to the natural unfolding of life, which brings us exactly what we need, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. Think of a river. It flows with ease, moving around rocks, branches, and obstacles. It doesn't try to force its way through, it simply flows. The river doesn't fight against the obstacles in its path. It bends, it acts, and it moves forward. This is how we should approach life. We don't need to control every aspect of it. We don't need to push and struggle against the currents. When we stop trying to force things, we can flow with life's natural rhythm. And in that flow, we discover the peace and clarity that comes with surrender. The power of stillness is not in what we can see with our eyes, but in what we can feel with our hearts. It is in the quiet moments when we pause and breathe that we reconnect with ourselves. We stop looking for answers outside and instead begin to listen to the wisdom within. This is where the real guidance lies, deep within, beyond the chatter of the mind, in the stillness of the soul. When you take time to be still, you give yourself the space to hear your own thoughts, to understand your true desires, and to reconnect with what really matters. Stillness is the foundation from which all clarity, peace, and wisdom spring. When you make time for stillness in your life, you allow the distractions to fall away, and you make room for the profound insights that can only come from being present in the moment. In today's fast-paced world, it can feel almost impossible to slow down. There is always something to do, something to achieve, someone to please. But the more we chase these external demands, the further we get from the peace and clarity we seek. Stillness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the breath that allows us to continue on our journey without burning out, without losing ourselves. It is the moment of quiet that lets us hear our own inner voice, guiding us back to what truly matters. So, take a moment now. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes and allow the stillness to fill the space around you. Let go of the need to control, to push, or to rush. Allow the fog to lift, and trust that in this stillness, the next step will be revealed to you. Life doesn't need to be rushed. The path forward is always there, waiting to be discovered in the quiet moments when we finally stop moving. When we trust the stillness, we trust that everything we need will come to us in its own time. And in that trust, we find peace, deep, lasting peace that cannot be shaken by the rush of the world around us. As we've journeyed through the exploration of inner peace, detachment, and the art of letting go, we've uncovered one crucial truth. Peace is not something we attain through effort or external circumstances, but through surrender and acceptance. The more we fight against life, the more we lose ourselves in the chaos. But when we stop resisting, when we let go of our need to control and perfect every aspect of our lives, we discover the stillness that resides within us. This stillness, this calm, is the key to lasting peace. We've seen that each part of our journey, whether it's learning to detach from others' opinions, embracing the courage to say no, or allowing ourselves to move forward in the flow of life, rather than forcing it, points to one central theme: true peace comes from within. The battles we fight are not external, but internal. The storm of doubt, fear, and insecurity that rages inside us can only be quelled when we choose to stop reacting to every thought and emotion, and instead, simply observe them. We are not our thoughts. We are not our fears. We are the silent awareness in which these things arise and dissolve. When we let go of the need to prove ourselves, of the need for approval, we free ourselves from the invisible chains that keep us trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and anxiety. Letting go isn't weakness. It's the strength to trust life, to trust that everything unfolds as it should, and to accept that we are enough, just as we are. Peace comes when we stop chasing after external validation and start nurturing the quiet power that lies deep within us. The journey to peace is a journey of self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-empowerment. It is not about avoiding pain or struggle, but about learning to embrace them as part of our growth. Setbacks become stepping stones, and difficulties become opportunities for wisdom. Through the practice of silence, we create space for clarity, and in that clarity, we find our path forward. Life's true beauty lies in our ability to flow with it, to release the need to control, and to trust that everything is unfolding for our highest good. Now, as you reflect on this journey, think about how you can apply these lessons to your own life. Where are you still holding on to fear, to control, or to the need for approval? Where can you start to say no to the things that drain your peace and begin to say yes to the things that truly nourish you? Remember, the power to change your experience lies in your ability to let go and trust the process. You don't need to fix everything or have it all figured out. You only need to stop fighting and start flowing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How do you view the concepts of letting go and finding peace within yourself? What are some ways you've learned to stop fighting and embrace the stillness? Feel free to share your ideas and insights in the comments, so we can all learn and grow together. If this journey resonated with you, consider subscribing to Buddhism in every moment. Your support helps us create more content that brings peace, wisdom, and clarity to your life. Together, we can continue to explore the profound teachings of mindfulness and live in harmony with the world around us. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Have you ever reached a moment when life shattered in complete silence, when the person you loved walked away, when your dream collapsed overnight, or when you woke up realizing the world you built no longer existed? That moment when everything stops, your breath, your thoughts, your hope, and all that's left is pain. But here's the secret no one tells you: pain is not the end. It's the door. A door to something vast, still, and breathtaking if you dare to walk through it. Because hidden beneath the ruins of everything you've lost is everything you were meant to find. Stay with me, this is not just another story about healing. It's a journey through the fire, into the heart of peace itself. Once you see what's on the other side, you will never hold your pain the same way again. If this message touches you, please subscribe to Buddhism in every moment. Your support gives us the strength to keep creating stories that bring light, wisdom, and peace to every soul searching for meaning. Part I. The weight we carry. Understanding the nature of pain. Have you ever felt the invisible weight pressing on your chest, even when everything around you seems fine? You laugh at the right moments, you do your work, you show up for the people who depend on you, but somewhere inside, something still hurts. Maybe it's the words you never said, the apology that never came, the dream that slipped through your fingers before you had the chance to hold it. Pain hides behind our smiles, waiting for silence to reveal itself. We live in a world that teaches us to keep moving, to stay strong, to pretend that time will eventually heal what broke us. But time, by itself, doesn't heal. It only buries. Beneath the daily noise of responsibilities and distractions, pain settles like dust in the corners of our hearts. And when the noise fades, when the world gets quiet, that dust rises again, reminding us that we never truly let go. Pain has many faces. It can be sharp and sudden, like the loss of someone you love. It can be dull and constant, like the ache of regret or the echo of loneliness. It can be disguised as anger, resentment, or even ambition. We chase goals not because we're inspired, but because we're afraid of stopping long enough to feel what's hurting. Some people drown their pain in success, others in noise. Some run toward relationships just to avoid being alone with themselves. But pain has patience. It waits. If you listen closely, pain always carries a message. It says, look here. Something inside you still needs to be seen. But instead of listening, we often try to silence it. We turn up the volume of life. We fill every space with something: music, work, conversations, scrolling, anything but stillness. Yet, silence is where pain transforms. The longer we avoid it, the more it demands to be felt. Science tells us that emotional pain activates the same areas in the brain as physical pain. The body doesn't know the difference between a heartbreak and a wound. That's why your chest tightens when you remember betrayal, why your stomach drops when you think of loss. Pain isn't just in your mind, it lives in your body, in every cell that once held joy. But Buddhism teaches us that pain itself isn't the problem. It's our attachment to it, the stories we tell ourselves about what happened, the identities we build around what we've lost. We say, I am broken, I am betrayed, I am unworthy, but those words are not truth. They are memories repeating themselves in the language of the past. The truth is simpler and far more liberating. Pain happened. It moved through you. But you are not it. You are the awareness that felt it, witnessed it, survived it. The moment you stop saying I am the pain and start saying I am the witness to pain, a small crack of light enters the room. That light is the beginning of peace. Imagine standing by the ocean at dawn. The tide rises, touches your feet, and retreats. The waves are endless, but you do not drown in them. You watch them come and go. That is how pain was meant to move through you: arrive, teach, and leave. But we, in our fear, hold on to it. We build walls around it, name it, feed it with thoughts. We turn a single wave into a storm that never ends. Think about the last time someone hurt you deeply. The moment passed, but the mind didn't let it go. You replayed it again and again, each time adding a new layer of judgment, anger, or self-blame. What should have been one wound became 1,000 tiny cuts. This is what it means to suffer twice: the first time from what happened, the second time from refusing to release it. In Buddhism, this is known as the second arrow. The first arrow is unavoidable, it is life's natural sting. The second arrow, however, is self-inflicted. It's the story we continue to tell long after the moment is gone. If you want to understand peace, you must first learn to stop shooting yourself with that second arrow. Pain will visit you many times in this life. But each visit carries a question: will you open the door with awareness, or will you lock it and pretend not to hear the knocking? Awareness doesn't erase pain, it transforms it. When you see your pain clearly, without the fog of judgment, something extraordinary happens. It begins to lose its grip. It stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. Think of all the things pain has taught you. The breakup that showed you what kind of love you deserve. The failure that humbled your pride. The loss that made you treasure every sunrise. Pain doesn't come to destroy, it comes to awaken. But to hear its lesson, you must stop running. You must dare to sit in the stillness it creates and ask, what are you trying to show me? In those moments of stillness, the truth begins to unfold. Pain was never against you. It was always guiding you back home to the parts of yourself that you abandoned when life became too heavy. You don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You don't have to resist it. You only have to meet it with curiosity, with compassion, with the same gentle awareness you would offer a friend who is hurting. Every person carries a story of pain. It may be hidden behind success, laughter, or silence, but it's there. Yet the purpose of life is not to escape pain, it's to understand it so deeply that it loses its power over you. The wound stops defining you the moment you allow it to become wisdom. The ache that once broke you becomes the bridge that connects you to others who are suffering too. This is how compassion is born, not from perfection, but from shared humanity. So, take a deep breath. Look at what you've been carrying. Ask yourself, is this pain still serving me, or am I serving it? Sometimes the bravest act isn't fighting your pain, it's putting it down. It's allowing yourself to walk without the old weight on your shoulders. It's realizing that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without bleeding. The first step toward peace is awareness. The second is surrender. And surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that you cannot control what has happened, but you can choose how long you keep holding it inside. The moment you let go, even a little, you create space for something new to enter: light, clarity, calm. One day, you'll look back and realize that pain was never a punishment. It was preparation. Every tear watered the seed of who you were becoming. Every heartbreak broke open a door to deeper love. Every ending cleared the space for a beginning you couldn't yet imagine. And when that day comes, you'll smile softly and whisper to yourself, now I understand. The weight was never mine to carry. It was only passing through. That is where our journey begins. If this message resonates with you, if it reminds you of the strength that still lives inside your heart, please subscribe to Buddhism in Every Moment. Your support helps us keep creating stories that bring light, wisdom, and peace to everyone walking through the quiet valleys of life, searching, just like you, for the way home. Part 2. Flow like the river, let life move through you. There is a quiet wisdom in water that most of us overlook. It doesn't resist. It doesn't argue with gravity or cling to the shape it once held. It moves, effortlessly, gracefully, always toward the sea. If you've ever stood beside a river at dawn, you've felt it, that silent persistence, that willingness to let go of everything it has touched. The river doesn't keep its wounds. It doesn't hold on to the storm that passed through last night or the branches that once broke its flow. By morning, it is new again, clear again, alive again. We, however, are not like the river. We cling. We replay. We build dams inside our minds, holding back memories, regrets, and the echoes of yesterday's pain. We mistake stillness for safety and forget that life itself is motion. The moment we stop flowing, we begin to drown in what was. We become stagnant pools, beautiful on the surface perhaps, but heavy with decay underneath. Why do we hold on so tightly? Because we fear the unknown. We think letting go means losing control, losing meaning, losing what we once were. But life, like the river, cannot be controlled. It can only be followed. The river never questions the direction it's going, even when it twists through darkness or falls from great heights. It trusts the current. It trusts the path carved by time and the pull of the earth. That is the art of surrender, not giving up, but giving in to the natural rhythm of existence. There's a story told near the Columbia River in Oregon. During the spring floods, massive logs break free from the banks and are carried miles downstream. Some wedge against rocks, stuck for weeks. Others are swept away, vanishing into the vast Pacific. When the floods subside, the water becomes calm again, and even those trapped logs eventually drift free. They were never meant to stay, they only needed time. The same is true of your pain. You may be wedged against a rock right now, unable to move, unable to see the end, but if you trust the current of your life, even this will pass. Nothing remains stuck forever. The greatest suffering arises when we fight the flow of life. When we insist that things should be different, that people should stay, that plans should unfold exactly as we imagined. We become like swimmers struggling against the tide, exhausting ourselves in resistance. But when we stop fighting, when we turn our bodies to face the direction of the current, we discover something extraordinary. Life carries us. It doesn't need to be forced. The river was always meant to move. So were we. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting what you've been through. It means allowing experiences to move through you without becoming your identity. You can remember without clinging. You can feel without drowning. You can honor your past without living in it. There's an old Zen saying, let go or be dragged. The mind drags what the heart was meant to release. Think about how much energy you've spent holding on to things that no longer serve you, arguments long past, love that ended, mistakes that have already taught their lesson. Each one is a stone in your hands. The tighter you grip them, the heavier your journey becomes. But the moment you open your palms, even slightly, the current begins to lift you. The water doesn't need your permission to flow, it only needs you to stop clinging to the shore. Flowing like the river is not passivity. It is participation without control. It's the art of aligning yourself with the pulse of the universe. When water meets a rock, it doesn't stop and complain, it flows around it, soft yet unstoppable. Over time, even the hardest stone is shaped by the persistence of water. Likewise, life may not always move the way you expect, but if you stay fluid, gentle and present, you will find your way around every obstacle. I remember standing once near the edge of Yosemite Valley, watching a waterfall crash down from a height that seemed impossible. The sound was thunderous, relentless, pure power in motion. Yet as I traced the stream below, I realized that after the fall, the water became calm again, smooth, serene, almost whispering as it continued its journey. It didn't resist the fall, it surrendered to gravity and transformed the chaos into grace. This is the wisdom of flow. The falls are not failures, they are transitions. They are how the river finds its way home. Every fall in your life, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every unexpected change is an invitation to trust the current again. To stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, where is this taking me? Because life is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to move you. Sometimes away from what you thought you needed, toward what your soul has quietly been asking for. There is a rhythm to everything. The inhale and exhale of breath, the rise and fall of waves, the seasons of loss and renewal. When you align yourself with that rhythm, you stop suffering from the illusion of permanence. You begin to see that endings are not mistakes, they are part of the flow. A tree does not mourn the leaves it loses in autumn, for it trusts the cycle that brings them back in spring. You too can learn to trust that nothing truly leaves, it only changes form. Letting go is not a single act. It's a practice, a way of being. You will have to remind yourself again and again, flow, don't fight. Some days it will feel easy. Other days, the current will seem too strong, the loss is too heavy. But even then, you are being carried towards something greater. The river doesn't doubt the ocean. It doesn't question if it will ever arrive. It simply flows, knowing that its destination is already written in its nature. This is what it means to live without resistance, to trust that every twist, every turn, every detour has purpose. You might not see it now, but the path is wiser than the traveler. Life has been moving long before you were born and will continue long after you're gone. The peace you seek is not in controlling the current, but in remembering that you are part of it. Try this next time you feel overwhelmed. Close your eyes and imagine yourself as water. Feel the edges of your identity soften. Let your thoughts become ripples, visible, but temporary. Let your breath move like a gentle tide. When you breathe in, you receive. When you breathe out, you release. There is no rush, no demand, no past or future in this flow, only presence. In that space, you can feel how life has always been carrying you. We spend years chasing what we already have. We look for freedom, not realizing that flow itself is freedom. To flow is to trust. To trust is to live without fear. And to live without fear is to love fully, even knowing that everything changes. That is the essence of being human, not to control the river, but to dance within it. At some point, you'll notice something subtle shift inside you. The pain that once consumed you begins to soften. The story you've been telling yourself starts to dissolve. What's left is a quiet gratitude for everything that brought you here. The river of life has shaped you not despite your struggles, but through them. Each stone it carried, each obstacle it carved around, made you who you are. The flow was never against you. It was always guiding you home. So, stand beside the river of your life and look at it with new eyes. Watch how it moves without fear, how it carries light and darkness alike. Let it remind you that your heart, too, was made to move, to feel deeply, to release freely, to keep going. You are not meant to hold the past like an anchor. You are meant to drift toward something vast and unseen, trusting that the current knows its way. When you let life move through you, you stop trying to swim upstream against what already is. You begin to see beauty even in uncertainty. You learn that peace is not the absence of motion, it is the harmony within it. You understand that nothing you lose is wasted, and nothing you hold is permanent. Flow, and you will find that every moment is both ending and beginning. Flow, and you will see that every loss makes space for a new kind of grace. Flow, and you will know that peace was never waiting at the destination. It has been with you in every movement of the river, in every step of your journey, in every breath you take right now. Because when you stop resisting, when you finally allow yourself to move with life, instead of against it, you don't just survive, you return to being what you always were, part of the endless, unbroken flow of everything that lives and breathes and changes in this universe. And that is what it means to let go. To flow like the river is to remember that nothing stays, nothing is lost, and everything, somehow, always finds its way back to the sea. If these words reach you in a moment when your heart feels heavy, remember you don't have to push the river. You only have to trust its direction. And if you find peace in this message, please subscribe to Buddhism in every moment. Your support helps us continue creating stories that remind every soul. The flow never stops, and neither does hope. Part 3. The hidden gift of suffering. There is a strange paradox at the heart of being human. We spend our entire lives running from suffering. Yet it is often suffering that teaches us who we truly are. Every wound has its secret. Every loss carries a message we are too afraid to open. We call it bad luck, injustice, punishment, but what if it is none of those things? What if pain is not the enemy, but the teacher we've refused to listen to? Suffering strips away the illusions we build to feel safe. It takes away the masks we wear, the stories we tell ourselves, and the fragile certainties we hide behind. When life is comfortable, we live on the surface. We talk about growth, but we rarely seek it. We say we value love, but we love conditionally. We claim to understand gratitude, but we only practice it when things go our way. Then something breaks, someone leaves, a dream collapses, a diagnosis changes everything, and suddenly the ground beneath us disappears. That is when suffering walks in, uninvited but necessary. It burns through everything false, until only the truth remains. The Buddha said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The first comes from life itself, the second comes from the mind that resists. When something hurts, the natural impulse is to pull away, to deny, to demand answers. But every time we resist, we turn pain into poison. We carry it longer than we need to. We feed it with our fear. We repeat it in our minds until it becomes identity. Suffering persists not because of the pain itself, but because we keep asking, why me, instead of what now? The hidden gift of suffering is that it humbles the ego. It shows us how small we really are in the face of impermanence. It reminds us that control is an illusion, that every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise is borrowed, not owned. But it also reveals something greater. When everything else is taken, something within you remains untouched. Beneath the ashes of pain lies a quiet strength that no storm can destroy. There's an old saying, the wound is the place where the light enters you. For many, that sounds poetic but distant until life shatters them. Only then do they understand what it means. Pain breaks open the shell of who we think we are. It tears apart the walls around the heart, letting light in through the cracks. What once felt like destruction becomes a form of awakening. Because suffering, when faced with awareness, doesn't just hurt, it transforms. Imagine walking through a forest after a fire. The air still smells of smoke, the ground is covered in ash, but look closely and you'll see something miraculous. Small green shoots pushing through the blackened soil. The fire that seemed to destroy everything has made space for new life. It burned away the old growth, the tangled underbrush, the clutter of what no longer served. In that same way, suffering clears the space for something new within you: clarity, compassion, wisdom, humility. Without the fire, the forest could never renew itself. Without the pain, your soul could never grow. Yet we fear pain because we confuse it with meaninglessness. We think if it hurts, it must be wrong. But there is a difference between pain that destroys and pain that refines. Think of an athlete training before dawn, muscles burning with exhaustion. Think of a mother in labor, every breath torn between agony and anticipation. Think of the person in meditation, sitting with old emotions surfacing like storms. Each one suffers but for a purpose. In the same way, life's spiritual growing pains refine us into something clearer, stronger, and more alive. When suffering first enters, it feels like chaos. But if you sit long enough with it, you start to see patterns. Pain always leads you back to the same truths. Nothing lasts forever. Control is an illusion. Love is all that truly matters. Each time life breaks you open, it's offering you a deeper version of those truths. The more you resist, the louder the lesson becomes. The moment you stop resisting, the wisdom begins to unfold. There is a quiet courage in those who learn to sit with their pain, instead of running from it. To look it in the eye and say, "Teach me." These people are not immune to heartbreak. They still cry, still doubt, still bleed, but their suffering becomes sacred. They understand that to feel deeply is not weakness. It is how the soul grows roots. They stop searching for happiness as a constant state and start cultivating meaning instead. Happiness changes, meaning endures. The hidden gift of suffering is empathy. Once you've been through pain, you can see it in others. You recognize it in the way someone forces a smile, in the quiet tone of their voice, in the way they look away when you mention hope. You no longer judge them, because you know what it's like to drown quietly while appearing fine. You listen differently. You love differently. Pain expands the heart in ways comfort never could. It breaks the illusion of separation and teaches the truth of shared humanity. Modern science agrees. Emotional pain activates the same regions in the brain as physical pain. The body doesn't distinguish between heartbreak and injury, it reacts to both. But here's the beauty, the brain is also wired for resilience. Each time you face suffering with awareness, your neural pathways strengthen. You literally become more capable of peace. In this way, pain doesn't just test you, it trains you. Suffering also teaches impermanence. When everything falls apart, we see how fragile our attachments are. We realize that nothing we hold, no relationship, no status, no possession can stay forever. At first, this feels terrifying. But eventually, it becomes freeing. Because if nothing lasts, neither does pain. Even the darkest night has an ending, even the deepest wound begins to heal. The impermanence that once frightened you becomes the very reason for your peace. The question, then, is not, how do I avoid suffering, but how can I meet it wisely? When you begin to see pain as a messenger, you stop running from it. You listen. You soften. You let it teach you without letting it define you. Maybe it's teaching you patience, or compassion, or forgiveness. Maybe it's teaching you how to love without expectation. Or maybe it's teaching you how to let go, how to find peace in the middle of imperfection. Each lesson is different, but all lead to the same place, awakening. In ancient Buddhist teachings, this process is called turning poison into medicine. The very thing that once wounded you becomes the cure. By shifting perception. The event doesn't change, but your relationship with it does. The breakup that once broke you becomes the reason you learned self-worth. The failure that humiliated you becomes the foundation of humility. The illness that scared you becomes the doorway to gratitude. The fire burns, but it also illuminates. There is no spiritual path without suffering. Every enlightened being, every teacher, every wise soul has walked through darkness. The difference is not that they suffered less, it's that they suffered consciously. They saw through the illusion that pain was punishment and recognized it as purification. When the Buddha faced Mara, the embodiment of desire and fear, he didn't fight him. He simply said, "I see you." That recognition transformed the moment. Awareness dissolves the power of pain. You can do the same. When sorrow rises, instead of drowning in it, try whispering, "I see you." Feel the ache without labeling it as good or bad. Don't push it away, don't cling to it. Just see it. In that seeing, the suffering begins to soften. Awareness is like sunlight, it doesn't argue with the darkness. It simply reveals that it was never permanent to begin with. Suffering also teaches gratitude. It's strange, isn't it? How we only notice joy after it's gone. But pain heightens our sensitivity to beauty. After loss, the smallest things, a warm cup of coffee, the sound of rain, a friend's voice, become sacred again. We realize that every ordinary moment is a miracle we had stopped seeing. Gratitude is not about denying pain. It's about expanding our vision until we can hold both joy and sorrow in the same breath. The more you understand suffering, the less it controls you. You stop asking for a painless life and start asking for a meaningful one. You stop expecting the world to be fair and start cultivating fairness within your own heart. You stop blaming others for your pain and begin taking responsibility for your peace. The gift of suffering is that it shifts you from victim to witness, from resistance to acceptance, from chaos to clarity. Remember, healing doesn't mean you never hurt again. It means the hurt no longer owns you. The scar remains, but it stops bleeding. The memory lingers, but it stops defining you. You learn to bow to your past with respect, not regret. To thank it for shaping you into someone who feels deeper, sees clearer, and loves wider than before. One day you will look back and realize that the moments you cursed were the ones that forged your strength. You will see that the heartbreak was an initiation, the loss was an awakening, the failure was guidance in disguise. You will understand that you were never being punished. You were being prepared. The pain was carving space for the life you were meant to live. And when that understanding arrives not as a thought, but as a knowing, you will no longer fear suffering. You will meet it as an old friend. You will recognize its arrival not as a curse, but as a whisper, it's time to grow again. And then, instead of running, you will open your hands and let it pass through. Because in the end, the hidden gift of suffering is this: it makes you real. It takes away what is shallow and reveals what is eternal. It strips you bare, and in that nakedness you find freedom. You realize that you are not the pain, you are the consciousness vast enough to hold it all. The quiet awareness beneath every joy and sorrow, the unbroken sky behind every storm. If these words speak to something within you, if they remind you that even pain can be sacred, please subscribe to Buddhism in every moment. Every story we share is a bridge, a reminder that through the fire of suffering we don't burn down, we burn bright. Part 3. The hidden gift of suffering. Every person who has ever lived has met suffering. It is the quiet shadow that walks beside us from birth, the echo that returns in moments of loss, heartbreak, or failure. Yet few stop long enough to ask the most important question: what is it here to teach me? Because suffering, when met with awareness, is not just pain, it is revelation. It is life showing you, sometimes with fire, and sometimes with silence, where truth has been hiding. We spend most of our lives trying to outrun pain. We fill our calendars, we bury ourselves in work, we search for distraction, believing that if we can stay busy enough, we can outrun the ache. But suffering waits with infinite patience. It does not chase us. It simply sits within, like an unopened letter. No matter how far we travel, the message remains. And the moment life grows quiet, when the noise fades, when the world stops demanding so much of us, it rises again, asking to be read. The first instinct is always to resist. When something hurts, we say, "This shouldn't be happening." We protest, we deny, we look for someone to blame. We forget that pain itself is neutral. It is our interpretation that turns it into punishment. But the truth is that suffering is the universe's way of slowing us down, of forcing us to look inward when everything outside has lost meaning. It arrives not to destroy, but to awaken. There was a story once told of a great tree that grew on the edge of a cliff in Northern California. For years, the wind tore at its branches, the rain stripped its bark, and lightning split its trunk again and again. Yet somehow, the tree lived. Its roots clung deep into the rock, twisting and adapting until they found water beneath. Centuries later, the same storms that nearly broke it became the reason for its strength. If the weather had been calm, the tree's roots would have never grown so deep. Human beings are not so different. Without the winds of suffering, we would never reach the depths of our own strength. When you face suffering consciously, something profound happens. The layers of who you thought you were, your ego, your plans, your control, begin to fall away. And beneath them, you discover a self that is simpler, quieter, more resilient than you ever imagined. Pain does not destroy the soul, it reveals it. It scrapes away everything false until only truth remains. Suffering, in its purest form, is the mind's reaction to impermanence. We hurt because we lose. We lose people, moments, dreams, youth, health, security. The human heart longs for what is lasting, but everything in existence changes form. This mismatch between our desire for permanence and life's endless transformation creates friction, and friction is suffering. But when you accept that nothing is meant to stay, you stop clinging to what was and begin to live in what is. When you were a child, you probably cried over small things: a broken toy, a scraped knee, the dark when the lights went out. Back then, the pain felt unbearable. Yet, if you could go back and meet that younger version of yourself, you would smile softly and say, "You'll be okay. This will pass." The same compassion you offer that child is the compassion you owe to the parts of you still hurting now. Because deep inside, every adult is just a child who learned to hide their pain instead of healing it. Suffering reminds you to return to that child, not to judge, but to comfort. The gift hidden inside suffering is perspective. When you lose something precious, it changes the way you see everything else. You realize that time is fragile, that moments are fleeting, that nothing should be taken for granted. You begin to notice beauty in the ordinary: the sunlight spilling through your window, the voice of someone you love, the rhythm of your own breath. Pain cracks the shell of indifference and lets gratitude pour in. There is another gift: humility. Pain reminds you that you are not in control. And though that sounds frightening, it is also freeing. You no longer have to hold the world on your shoulders. You no longer have to pretend to be perfect. You realize that everyone is carrying something unseen. Everyone is fighting a battle that no one else can fully understand. From this realization grows empathy, the most human of all virtues. Empathy is born when your own suffering teaches you how to see. Once you have walked through darkness, you begin to recognize it in the eyes of others. You stop judging so quickly. You start listening more. You become gentler, softer. You stop needing to be right and start wanting to be kind. The pain that once isolated you becomes a bridge to others. You discover that love expands in direct proportion to how deeply you have suffered. In the Buddhist tradition, this transformation is described as turning poison into medicine. The very toxin that once paralyzed you becomes the substance that strengthens you. The grief that closed your heart becomes the compassion that opens it. The failure that humiliated you becomes the humility that grounds you. The fear that kept you small becomes the courage that allows you to love again. Nothing is wasted, not a single tear, not a single sleepless night. We often think of suffering as a detour from the life we were meant to live. But what if it is the path itself? What if every difficulty you've faced has been preparing you for a strength, a depth, a compassion that could not exist otherwise? The pearl is born only because the oyster was wounded. Gold is refined only by fire. The lotus blooms only in the mud. The human soul is no different. It blossoms through its own ashes. Still, this doesn't mean suffering feels noble while you're inside it. When pain hits, it can feel unbearable, meaningless, even cruel. It strips away all pretense. It leaves you raw. But if you breathe through it, if you allow yourself to be present without judgment, you will notice something subtle beneath the noise of fear and grief. There is stillness. A small flame that does not go out. That stillness is your true nature. It cannot be destroyed by pain. It can only be uncovered by it. When we deny suffering, we multiply it. The more we fight against what is, the tighter the chains become. The key to transformation lies not in resistance, but in surrender. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means giving yourself permission to stop fighting reality. It means saying, "This is happening, and I will meet it with awareness." Once you do that, the energy of suffering begins to change. It stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that moves through you. There's a profound moment that happens after long pain: clarity. You wake up one morning and realize that something has shifted. The same thoughts that used to break you no longer have the same power. The same memories that used to sting now evoke quiet understanding. You begin to see that suffering was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to strip away everything that was false, to show you what cannot be taken. The mind likes to believe that happiness comes from adding things: more success, more love, more security. But true happiness, the kind that suffering reveals, comes from subtraction. It comes from letting go of illusions, expectations, and attachments. The less you cling, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the freer you feel. Pain can also be a doorway to meaning. Sometimes the question is not, "Why did this happen to me?" but "What can this awaken in me?" A person who has known loss understands the sacredness of presence. A person who has failed deeply understands perseverance. A person who has suffered injustice often becomes a voice for compassion. The pain you've endured can become the light you hold for others. When life tests you, you have two choices: to close or to open. Closing is easier at first, it feels safe. But an open heart, though it risks breaking again, is the only one that truly heals. Because love, in its purest form, is born not from avoidance of pain, but from the courage to feel it completely. The most compassionate souls are not those who have never suffered, but those who have suffered and still choose to love. To accept suffering as a teacher does not mean you seek it. It means that when it arrives, you greet it with dignity. You let it shape you, but not define you. You let it soften you, but not break you. And when it finally passes, as all things do, you bow to it and whisper, "Thank you for the lesson." You may not see the meaning of your pain today, but one day, when you look back, you will understand that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every dark night was necessary. You will realize that suffering carved space inside you for wisdom to live. Without it, you would have remained asleep in the comfort of certainty. It is suffering that shakes us awake to the preciousness of being alive. The gift hidden within suffering is not joy in the pain itself, it is the awakening that follows. It is the clarity that emerges after the storm, the peace that grows after surrender, the compassion that blooms after grief. These are not rewards given by fate, they are the natural consequences of facing life as it is. So when pain visits again, and it will remember this, it comes bearing gifts. It may not speak gently. It may not look like grace. But if you listen, if you stay open, you will find the lesson hidden within. And when you do, you will no longer fear suffering. You will walk through it like a traveler through the forest, aware of the shadows, but guided by the light filtering through the trees. Because suffering is not the end of your story. It is the chapter that teaches you how to read the rest of the book. It is the hand that breaks you open, only to reveal that inside the wound was not emptiness, but light. And that light, once seen, can never be forgotten. 4. The power of stillness healing through silence. There is a kind of healing that doesn't come from words, advice, or time. It comes from silence. A silence so vast it seems to stretch beyond sound, beyond thought, beyond the boundaries of who you think you are. Most people fear it. They mistake silence for emptiness, for loneliness, for the absence of life. But silence, when entered with awareness, is not absence, it is presence. It is where life itself speaks in its truest voice. In our modern world, stillness has become the rarest luxury. We fill every waking hour with noise, the hum of machines, the rhythm of notifications, the endless scroll of distractions. We wake up to alarms and fall asleep to screens, surrounded by sound yet starved of peace. We confuse movement for progress and talking for understanding. But beneath the surface of all this noise, there is something sacred waiting a place within you that has never been disturbed. There is a story told of a small monastery hidden deep in the mountains of Japan. The monks there begin each day not with chants, but with silence. For the first hour after sunrise, no one speaks. They clean, they cook, they walk through the garden in absolute quiet. Visitors often describe this silence as deafening at first, as if the air itself is holding its breath. But slowly, something changes. The silence stops feeling empty and begins to feel alive. You start to hear the rustle of the wind, the sound of your own footsteps, the rhythm of your heart. In that silence, you remember that life has always been speaking, you were simply too loud to hear it. Silence is not the absence of thought, it is the space in which thought dissolves. It is the pause between breaths, the stillness between waves. And within that pause lies the power to heal. Because silence allows what is buried to rise. It gives space for emotions that have long been suppressed to finally be seen. We often think healing comes from understanding, from figuring everything out. But healing rarely needs explanation, it needs space. Think of an open wound. If you keep touching it, picking at it, it never closes. But if you leave it alone, if you give it stillness, the body knows what to do. The same is true for emotional wounds. The more we analyze them, the more we reopen them. The more we sit quietly with them, the more they begin to soften on their own. Silence does not fix you, it lets you remember that you were never truly broken. There's a strange belief that silence is passive, that doing nothing means surrendering to weakness. But in truth, stillness is one of the most powerful forms of strength. It takes courage to stop running. It takes bravery to sit with what is unresolved, to face the voice inside you that you've spent years trying to drown out. When you stop moving, when you stop chasing, you meet yourself. And that meeting is the beginning of every healing journey. Some of the most transformative moments in life happen in complete stillness, sitting by the ocean as the sun sets, walking through a forest after rain, watching snow fall through the quiet air. Nature doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It unfolds in perfect timing. The mountains don't shout their presence, they simply are. The river doesn't argue its way to the sea, it flows. In stillness, we align with that same natural rhythm. We stop demanding that life explain itself and begin to trust that everything has its place, even the pain. In silence, you start to see the truth of your own mind. You notice how thoughts rise and fall like waves, how emotions move through like weather. You begin to understand that you are not the storm, you are the sky. Silence gives you that perspective. It reminds you that peace is not the absence of noise, but the absence of resistance. But stillness isn't always peaceful at first. When you first sit in silence, your mind rebels. It throws up every memory, every fear, every unfinished thought. The noise inside feels even louder because there are no distractions left to hide behind. Many people run away at this stage, they think they're failing at being calm. But this is not failure. This is the mind detoxing. The storm has to pass through before the sky can clear. If you can endure that initial discomfort, if you can sit through the turbulence, something incredible happens. The thoughts begin to lose their power. You start to see them for what they are, passing clouds, not permanent truths. You realize you don't need to control or suppress them. You simply let them move through. And slowly, the spaces between thoughts grow wider. In those spaces, silence begins to bloom. This silence is not dull or empty, it is luminous. It hums with presence. It is the same silence that surrounds a newborn's first cry, the same silence between the beats of your heart. It is life itself, waiting patiently for you to listen. Silence also teaches you compassion. When you stop speaking, you start hearing the world, others, yourself. You begin to notice the pain beneath someone's words, the longing behind their anger, the fear hidden inside their silence. In the stillness of listening, empathy is born. You realize that beneath all our stories, we are the same. Every person you meet is carrying something unspoken. Every heart longs for peace. Silence is the bridge that connects us. In Buddhism, this is called noble silence. It is not the silence of avoidance or fear. It is the silence of understanding. It says, I do not need to add more noise to this world. I will be still and let truth reveal itself. When you practice noble silence, you begin to notice that wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. The answers you've been chasing are often found not in thinking harder, but in being quiet enough to hear what was always there. In one of his teachings, the Buddha compared the mind to a lake. When the surface is disturbed, the reflection is distorted, you cannot see clearly. But when the water becomes still, everything becomes visible: the sky, the trees, the mountains, the stars. In stillness, reality reveals itself as it truly is. You realize that the chaos was never outside, it was in the ripples of your own mind. There is something deeply transformative about embracing silence in daily life. You don't have to escape to a monastery or meditate for hours to experience it. You can begin right now. Turn off your phone for a few minutes. Sit by a window. Watch the world without commentary. Listen to your breath. Feel the air moving in and out. Don't label anything as good or bad, just observe. This simple act reconnects you with presence, and presence is peace. As silence deepens, it begins to heal the nervous system. Studies have shown that periods of intentional quiet lower stress hormones, reduce anxiety, and restore cognitive balance. But beyond science, there is something the body knows instinctively: stillness brings safety. When you are silent, your body stops preparing for battle. It begins to rest, to repair, to trust again. Silence, then, is not escape, it's homecoming. There's a moment in stillness when you realize how little you actually need. The noise of wanting begins to fade. The craving for validation, for recognition, for control, it all softens. You start to see that happiness was never about adding more, but about needing less. In silence, simplicity reveals itself as abundance. Perhaps the greatest power of stillness is this: it reconnects you with the sacredness of now. Pain only exists in memory or anticipation. The mind clings to what has happened, or fears what might come. But silence pulls you into this exact moment, where neither past nor future exists. Here there is no suffering, only awareness. If you sit long enough, you'll notice that silence is not just around you. It's within you. It has always been there, beneath every thought, every word, every emotion. It is the backdrop of your consciousness, the space in which everything appears and disappears. You are not separate from it, you are it. When you rest in that realization, the search for peace ends. Because peace was never lost, it was only drowned in noise. Every great truth in life arises from stillness. Every act of creativity, compassion, and wisdom begins in silence. Before the painter touches the canvas, there is a moment of stillness. Before a great decision is made, there is a pause. Before forgiveness is spoken, there is a quiet surrender in the heart. The universe itself was born from silence, the vast nothingness before sound, before form. Silence is not the opposite of life. It is its foundation. So, when the world feels heavy, when your thoughts race and your heart feels crowded, return to the quiet. Sit, breathe, and let the noise settle. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to find the right words. All you need is to be still long enough for the truth to rise. Eventually, you will discover that silence is not something you enter, it's something you remember. It is the natural state beneath the chaos, the peace beneath the pain. It has been with you since the beginning, waiting patiently for your return. And when you find it, when you truly sink into that vast, sacred stillness, you will know what the masters meant when they said, "Be still, and know." You will feel the world breathing with you. You will understand that you are not separate from it. You are the stillness that holds it all. Part V. You are the sky, not the storm. There are days when life feels like an unending storm. The clouds gather without warning. The wind howls through the quiet corners of your mind, and the rain of emotion pours until you forget what sunlight feels like. Fear, grief, anger, guilt, all of them collide like thunder in your chest. You find yourself saying, "I am broken," or "I am drowning," as if the storm itself has become who you are. But what if that isn't true? What if you were never the storm at all, but the sky, the vast, open space that holds it? The Buddha once said that the mind is like the sky, vast, unbounded, untouched by the weather that passes through it. Thoughts and emotions are the clouds. They appear, they move, they shift in color and shape, but they cannot stain the sky. When we forget this truth, we identify with the passing weather. We say, "I am angry," instead of "anger is here." We say, "I am anxious," instead of "anxiety is visiting." That small change in perception can transform your entire life, because it reminds you that you are not what passes through you. You are what remains. It's easy to confuse emotion with identity. When you feel sadness for long enough, it begins to wear your name. You start to believe you are the sadness itself. But emotion is energy. It comes, it moves, and it goes. What keeps it alive is your attachment to it. You feed it with stories, with judgment, with resistance. You keep asking why the storm came instead of watching how it moves. You stand in the rain screaming for the sun, forgetting that the sun was never gone, it was simply behind the clouds. To understand yourself as the sky is to step into awareness. It is the realization that whatever you feel, fear, rage, despair, is temporary. This doesn't mean you deny it or suppress it. It means you hold it with gentle curiosity. You allow it to exist without becoming its prisoner. When a storm comes, the sky doesn't fight it. It doesn't try to hold it still or push it away. It allows the storm to pass through, knowing that it cannot stay forever. When you practice this way of seeing, you begin to notice how everything in life moves in cycles. The rise and fall of emotion, the expansion and contraction of the heart, the ebb and flow of experience. The mind wants to freeze moments, cling to joy, resist pain, but life itself is motion. The more you let yourself flow with that motion, the more peace you find. Imagine standing in a vast desert at dawn. The air is still, the horizon infinite. Then, out of nowhere, a sandstorm begins. The wind roars, the sky darkens, and visibility vanishes. You can't see the path ahead. But if you wait long enough, the storm settles. The dust falls back to the ground. And there it is again, the same wide sky, unchanged, unbroken. That is what awareness feels like. Beneath every storm, there is stillness waiting. Beneath every emotion, there is a space untouched by time or fear. That space is who you are. We often believe peace means never feeling pain. But peace is not the absence of emotion. It is the absence of identification. You can cry and still be at peace. You can feel anger without being consumed by it. You can experience chaos while remaining steady inside. Peace is not a fragile calm that disappears. When life grows difficult, it's the spaciousness that holds it all. There is a moment in meditation when you begin to observe your thoughts without being caught by them. At first, they seem endless waves of memory, regret, fantasy, worry. You chase one, and another rises. But as you sit longer, you start to see the pattern. Thoughts are not personal, they are phenomena, like wind. They come and go in the field of awareness. And when you stop clinging to them, they lose their weight. That is when you begin to glimpse the sky behind them. The same applies to emotion. When anger arises, you can notice it without judgment. Anger is here, you say. Let me see what it feels like in my body. You feel the heat in your chest, the tightness in your jaw. You breathe. You allow it to move without feeding it with stories about who is right or wrong. Slowly, it begins to dissolve. When sadness arises, you hold it softly. Sadness is here. You breathe into the heaviness, allowing it to pass. In this way, awareness becomes the great purifier. It allows everything to move through you without leaving residue. There is no emotion too heavy for the sky. You can carry all your grief, all your shame, all your fear, and still remain infinite. What breaks you is not what happens to you, it's the belief that you are only what happens to you. When people first hear you are the sky, they imagine a kind of cold detachment, as if awareness means never feeling deeply again. But awareness doesn't numb you, it expands you. You feel more, not less. You feel grief fully without collapsing under it. You feel love fully without fearing its loss. You experience the richness of life without being enslaved by its changes. Detachment, in its truest form, is not indifference, it is freedom. The sky doesn't reject the storm, it includes it. In the same way, awareness includes everything: joy and sorrow, hope and despair. Nothing is excluded. This inclusiveness is the essence of compassion. When you realize that even your darkest emotions are part of the great play of existence, you stop dividing yourself into good and bad, worthy and unworthy. You become whole again. Think of how weather moves across the planet. A storm that devastates one coast nourishes another with rain. A drought in one land ends with a flood in another. Nature has no judgment, it simply moves in balance. When you understand your own emotions this way, you stop labeling them as enemies. Anger, sadness, fear, they are not punishments, they are processes. They come to cleanse, to reveal, to balance. If you meet them with awareness, they complete their work and leave. Some of the greatest transformations in life happen when we stop fighting what we feel. Resistance keeps pain alive. Acceptance lets it pass. The moment you say, "This too is part of me," you disarm the storm. You stop being at war with yourself. In the Zen tradition, there is a saying, "Let the muddy water settle, and you will see clearly." When emotions churn inside you, the mind becomes muddy. You can't see truth because everything is stirred up. But if you stop stirring, if you sit, breathe, and allow stillness, the water clears on its own. You begin to see reality as it is, not as your fear imagines it to be. Awareness doesn't mean you stop caring or feeling. It means you become the witness, the one who sees without getting lost. It's like standing at the shore watching the waves crash. The waves are your emotions, but you are the shore, steady, unmoved. Some waves are gentle, others fierce, but none of them can drown you unless you step into them. The problem is that most of us live entirely in the waves. We identify with every rise and fall, every thought and emotion, every opinion and judgment. We forget the shore exists. We forget the sky exists. We forget that there's a part of us that has never been touched by the storm. If you can begin to sense that part, even for a moment, you'll find something extraordinary. Peace isn't something you achieve, it's something you remember. It's the natural state beneath all the noise. Every practice of mindfulness, every meditation, every breath you take consciously is a way of returning to that remembrance. Imagine the sky after a hurricane. Broken branches, fallen leaves, flooded streets, but above, the air begins to clear. Light filters through the clouds. The same sky that held the storm now holds the sunlight. It does not prefer one over the other. It simply holds both. That is awareness. It does not cling to the good or reject the bad. It allows, and in that allowing, there is freedom. The practice of seeing yourself as the sky is not an escape from life. It is a deeper participation. It allows you to engage fully without being consumed. You can care without clinging. You can love without fear. You can face loss without collapsing. This is true strength, the strength of vastness. The next time emotion rises in you, pause before naming it. Notice its texture, its temperature, its rhythm. Ask yourself, who is the one observing this? In that question, you'll find a gap, a moment of pure awareness. That is the sky revealing itself. That is the space where peace begins. The storms of life will come. You will lose people, fail at things, experience grief and uncertainty. The clouds will gather again and again. But the sky remains. Always. Infinite. Untouched. When you remember this, something subtle shifts. You stop asking, how do I make the storm end? And start asking, how can I remain open while it passes? You stop running from pain and start standing with it, knowing it will move through. You stop fearing change and start trusting that what comes will also go. The storms will continue. But you will no longer be afraid of them. You will stand quietly beneath them, watching the rain fall, feeling its coolness on your skin. You will realize that even this, the lightning, the thunder, the chaos is part of something beautiful. Because without storms, there would be no rivers, no growth, no clearing of the air. And then, one day, you will look up and see the vastness again. You will feel that same boundless stillness inside you, the awareness that never left, the sky that was always there. And you will smile, not because the storm is gone, but because you have remembered who you are. Part V. The art of non-possession, releasing ownership of pain. There's a quiet tragedy hidden in the way we speak about suffering. We call it my pain, my loss, my heartbreak, as if sorrow were a possession, as if grief belonged to us like a house or a name. But the moment you claim pain as yours, you make it permanent. You give it a home within your heart and tell it it's welcome to stay. Yet pain was never meant to be owned. It was meant to pass through, to touch you and teach you, and then dissolve. The art of non-possession begins when you stop claiming what was never yours to keep. Ownership is the language of the ego. The ego says, this happened to me, so it defines me. It collects experiences like trophies, some polished with pride, others hidden away in shame. But the soul, the deeper self, knows no ownership. It understands that life moves through us, not for us to grasp but to experience. When we release the urge to own our suffering, we stop feeding the story that keeps it alive. The wound can finally breathe. There is a small temple in Kyoto known for its simplicity. Inside, there are no grand statues, no gold, no elaborate prayers, only an empty room with an open window facing the mountains. When asked why it was built that way, the old monk said, "The mountain doesn't belong to the temple. The temple belongs to the mountain." That is the heart of non-possession. It's the recognition that nothing, no joy, no sorrow, no moment belongs to you. You belong to life, and life moves on its own. We hold on to pain because it gives us identity. If I am the one who was betrayed, the one who was abandoned, the one who lost everything, then I know who I am. The ego would rather suffer than disappear. But the truth is, you are not the story. You are the awareness beneath it. The betrayal, the loss, the failure, they are weather passing through the sky of your being. The more you identify with them, the darker the clouds become. The more you release them, the more clearly you see the light behind them. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each stone is a memory, a hurt, a regret. You've carried it for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to walk without it. You think, this is who I am, someone who carries pain. But what happens when you finally stop? When you open the bag and lay the stones on the ground, you realize the weight was never part of you. You were free the whole time. You had just forgotten how to set things down. In Buddhist practice, non-possession is called aparigraha, the absence of grasping. It doesn't mean indifference, it means freedom from the illusion of ownership. To practice aparigraha is to say, this pain is visiting me, but it is not mine. You acknowledge its presence without claiming it. You allow it to teach you what it came to teach, and then let it go. We live in a culture that glorifies ownership. Everything is mine: my car, my career, my image, my trauma. We've built identities out of what we own, forgetting that nothing lasts. The house will crumble, the body will age, the memories will fade. When you understand impermanence, ownership begins to look absurd. You cannot own what is constantly changing. You can only experience it. Pain, like all things, is impermanent. It arises, stays for a while, and fades. But we extend its stay by replaying it, by weaving it into our self-concept. I am the one who was wronged. I am the one who was hurt. I am the one who failed. These are the mantras of possession. The mind keeps repeating them, and so the wound stays fresh. To let go of ownership, you must first see how subtle it is. It's not always loud. Sometimes it hides in quiet thoughts. I can't believe this happened to me. Why did I have to go through this? The me in those sentences is what binds you to suffering. The more you repeat it, the deeper the roots of identification grow. Freedom begins the moment you stop making pain personal. This doesn't mean you deny your experience or suppress your feelings. It means you see them as part of the flow of life, not as your permanent state. When grief visits, you sit with it. You feel its weight, its temperature, its rhythm. But you don't say, my grief. You say, grief is here. You witness it the way you would watch rain falling, real, vivid, but not forever. There's an ancient teaching that compares life to a river. Everything that enters the river moves. If you hold on to a rock, you resist the flow and begin to drown. The river is time, the rocks are attachments. Letting go doesn't mean the rock disappears, it means you stop gripping it so tightly that it drags you under. Look at the natural world. Nothing clings. The tree lets go of its leaves each autumn without mourning. The waves dissolve into the shore without complaint. The sun sets without fearing the night. Yet we, in our longing to control, try to hold what is already slipping away. We grip our memories, our identities, our pain, as if ownership could protect us from impermanence. But all it does is imprison us. The art of non-possession is a quiet rebellion against the ego's need to own. It is a return to humility, to realizing that you are not the center of the universe, but a participant in its dance. Everything that enters your life is borrowed love, sorrow, breath, even the body you inhabit. When you see this clearly, gratitude replaces grasping. You begin to live lightly, knowing that everything you touch is temporary and sacred precisely because of that. Pain becomes easier to bear when you no longer call it yours. When you see it as part of the collective human experience, something softens. You stop feeling isolated in your suffering. You realize that pain connects rather than divides, that every heart has carried its own version of loss, and that you are not alone. Ownership isolates, awareness unites. You can begin to practice this shift in simple ways. When something hurts, pause and say to yourself, this is pain. It's not mine, it's simply passing through. Feel how those words loosen the grip around your heart. You are acknowledging the experience without adding the weight of identity to it. The same applies to joy. Don't say, "my happiness." Say, "happiness is here." In this way, you remain open to everything but attached to nothing. When you live this way, life becomes lighter. You stop carrying unnecessary burdens. You stop turning every emotion into a possession. You realize that joy and sorrow, gain and loss, are all movements of the same ocean. The waves rise and fall, but the ocean remains vast and undisturbed. That ocean is you. One of the most painful traps of ownership is guilt. We cling to our mistakes as if keeping them alive could somehow redeem us. We replay moments of shame again and again, saying, "I shouldn't have done that," or "I'll never forgive myself." But guilt, too, is a form of possession. You hold the past hostage, refusing to let it die. Non-possession means forgiving not to erase the past, but to free yourself from being its warden. Imagine if every experience in your life were written on water instead of stone. The words would still appear, they would still be read, but they would fade in their own time, leaving space for new reflections. That is how the wise live, with hearts that record, learn, and release. The fool carves everything into stone and wonders why their heart is so heavy. Letting go of ownership also transforms your relationships. When you stop saying "my partner," "my friend," "my child," you begin to see people as they truly are: free beings, not possessions. You love without trying to control. You care without clinging. You understand that love is not ownership, it is appreciation. It's a shared moment in the river of life, beautiful precisely because it cannot be held. True freedom is not found in having, but in being. When you stop owning pain, you begin to live as consciousness itself, open, spacious, unconfined. You realize that you are not the body that suffers, not the story that breaks, not the emotion that floods you. You are the awareness that watches it all, untouched. This awareness has no name, no boundary, no beginning or end. It doesn't say "mine." It simply is. The poet Rumi wrote, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." What he meant is that nothing is ever truly lost. It simply changes hands, changes shape. The love that left your life may return as understanding. The failure that humbled you may return as wisdom. The pain that broke you may return as compassion. Ownership ends the cycle. Non-possession keeps the flow alive. The ego says, "This is my wound." The soul says, "This is life moving through me." When you live as the soul, you stop resisting the flow. You let everything pass through: joy, sorrow, hope, loss, without claiming any of it as yours. The world becomes lighter because you no longer hold it hostage. One day, you will look back and realize that every time you released something you thought you couldn't live without, every person, every expectation, every memory, you didn't lose anything. You gained space. You gained peace. You gained the freedom to breathe again. Pain, when owned, becomes a chain. Pain, when released, becomes a teacher. The choice is yours. You can keep saying "my suffering" and carry it like a badge. Or you can whisper, "This is simply pain," and let it move through like wind through an open window. When you learn this art, the art of non-possession, you will find that peace is not something you must achieve. It is what remains when you stop clinging. It's the natural state of a heart that no longer says "mine." Part 7: Fire and Light, Transforming Destruction into Growth. There are moments in life when everything we know burns. The plans we made, the identities we built, the comfort we clung to, all turn to ash in a single breath. A diagnosis, a betrayal, a death, a failure. Suddenly, the ground gives way, and what once felt solid disappears. In that instant, it feels like destruction. The fire is merciless. It devours everything familiar. But what if the fire that burns you is also the one that purifies you. What if the very pain that seems to destroy you is the light that finally allows you to see? Fire has always been both feared and worshipped. It can destroy forests, but it also gives warmth. It can reduce everything to dust, yet from that dust, new life begins. Every culture has understood this dual nature of fire, the force that consumes and renews. In the same way, human suffering carries within it this paradox. It breaks us open, but it also shapes us into something stronger, wiser, and more awake than we were before. There's a word in Japanese, kintsugi, that means to repair with gold. When a bowl breaks, the artist doesn't throw it away. Instead, they fill the cracks with golden lacquer, making the broken places more beautiful than before. The idea is not to hide the damage, but to honor it, to show that something can be even more valuable for having been broken. This is the essence of transformation through suffering. The cracks in your soul are not signs of failure. They are openings through which light enters. The fire that comes into your life doesn't arrive to punish you. It comes to clear the debris, to burn away what no longer serves, to reveal the truth beneath illusion. Pain strips us of pretense. It exposes what we truly value, what truly lasts. The fire of loss burns away superficial desires and false attachments, leaving behind the essence of who we are. When everything else is gone, what remains is what cannot be destroyed: awareness, love, presence. If you walk through a forest that has recently burned, the scene is haunting. The trees are blackened, the earth still smolders, the air smells of smoke. It looks like the end of life itself. But if you return weeks later, you will see green shoots pushing through the ash. Fire, paradoxically, releases nutrients locked in the soil. It clears space for new growth. Without the fire, the forest cannot renew itself. The same is true for the human heart. The fires of suffering, as painful as they are, prepare the ground for renewal. Transformation does not happen in comfort. Growth requires friction. Fire is life's way of demanding honesty. It forces you to face what you've avoided, to confront the illusions you've built to protect yourself. Every time life sets fire to something you thought you needed, it's inviting you to see what you truly are without it. There's a reason we often speak of burning out, or being on fire with passion. Fire changes form but never loses its nature. It consumes, but it also illuminates. Within every destruction lies the seed of creation. The same energy that destroys a building can forge steel. The same fire that devours a forest nourishes its rebirth. Pain, too, can either destroy or transform, depending on how you hold it. When suffering comes, the instinct is to run, to put out the fire as quickly as possible. But when you rush to extinguish pain, you also extinguish the lesson it carries. Sometimes you must stand in the heat, breathe through the smoke, and trust that this fire has a purpose. Transformation doesn't happen when you escape the flames. It happens when you walk through them with awareness. The Buddha taught that suffering is not meant to be avoided, but understood. To understand suffering is to see its impermanence, to recognize that even fire cannot burn forever. Flames, no matter how fierce, eventually fade. What they leave behind is the space for something new. The art of transformation is learning to stay conscious in the burning, to remain open even as everything falls apart. In modern life, we are taught to fear discomfort. We medicate, distract, or escape anything that threatens our sense of control. But healing doesn't come from comfort, it comes from surrender. When you stop resisting pain, you begin to see its intelligence. The fire doesn't burn aimlessly, it burns precisely what must go. Ego, attachment, illusion, fear, these are the first to ignite. Think about the moments in your life that changed you most. Were they the easy ones? Or were they the times you were brought to your knees, when you thought you couldn't go on, but somehow did? The human spirit doesn't grow in sunlight alone. It grows in the dark, in the heat, in the ashes. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the courage to stand in it and let it forge you into something new. Every great transformation in nature begins with destruction. The seed must break open for the plant to grow. The caterpillar must dissolve completely to become a butterfly. The volcano must erupt to create new land. Life destroys to create. Pain is not a punishment, it's a process of evolution. What you call breakdown is often breakthrough in disguise. When you are in the middle of your own fire, it can be hard to see anything but loss. But the fire is not the end of your story, it's the rewriting of it. It's life saying, you are ready for a new form. The ashes of your old self become the soil for your new beginning. The heat that once seemed unbearable becomes the light that guides your next steps. Transformation through fire is not a concept, it's a lived experience. You will know it when the things that used to destroy you no longer do. You will feel it when you can look at your pain and say, thank you. Gratitude doesn't mean you wanted the fire. It means you see what it gave you. Perhaps it gave you humility. Perhaps it gave you compassion. Perhaps it gave you the courage to live authentically, without masks. The gift is different for everyone, but it always leads back to the same truth: you are stronger than you ever believed. The fire also teaches impermanence. In the beginning, everything you lose feels irreplaceable. But in time, you realize that even loss is not absolute. What was burned away externally often returns internally as wisdom. You lose the job, but gain freedom. You lose the relationship, but find yourself. You lose your certainty, but discover faith. Fire is the alchemist of the soul. It turns what is heavy into light. There's a quiet miracle in surviving the fire. One day you wake up and notice that the pain that once consumed you has turned into strength. You realize that what you feared most, falling apart, was actually the beginning of becoming whole. The scars remain, but they no longer ache. They tell a story of endurance, of the human capacity to rise again. You are not defined by what the fire takes from you. You are defined by what you become because of it. You are the phoenix, rising from the ashes not as who you were, but as who you were meant to be. Every time you are burned by life, you are invited to begin again, this time with greater clarity, greater compassion, greater light. The question is not, how do I avoid the fire? But how can I use it? When pain comes, ask it what it's trying to burn away. Ask it what part of you is ready to be reborn. Then listen. The fire speaks in silence. It tells you to trust what is being removed, even when it hurts. It tells you that everything temporary must fall so that the eternal can be revealed. When you live with this understanding, fear begins to lose its grip. You stop running from endings. You start to see that every ending is also a beginning disguised in smoke. You stop clinging to what burns, and you begin to move with life instead of against it. This is how the fire becomes light, by being accepted, not fought. The human heart is more resilient than we imagine. It can burn and still love again. It can lose and still hope again. It can shatter and still choose peace again. The fire that refines gold does not destroy it, it removes what is impure. Your pain does the same. It removes what is false until only truth remains. One day, you will look back on the fires you've survived and realize they were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to awaken you, to strip away everything that kept you small. You will see that the moments you cursed as endings were actually beginnings in disguise. You will understand that every time something in you died, something greater was being born. This is the paradox of life. Destruction and creation are one. The fire that burns your illusions is the same light that reveals your soul. Once you understand this, you stop fearing the flames. You begin to walk into them willingly, knowing that on the other side of every burning is freedom. If these words reach you in a season of fire, if everything feels uncertain and raw, remember this. The light you're looking for is inside the flame. Don't turn away. Walk through it. The fire will not destroy you. It will refine you, illuminate you, and return you to yourself. And when you emerge scarred, humbled, radiant, you will see that the fire was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your purifier, your guide home to the light that was always within you. Part 8. The choice of peace, not a destination, but a decision. There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise of the world becomes too loud and the chaos inside the mind too heavy to bear. You reach for peace as if it were something distant, a place you must arrive at after years of striving, a mountain you must climb, a prize you must earn. You imagine peace as a horizon somewhere beyond the storm, waiting for you when everything finally goes right. But peace isn't waiting for you at the end of the road. It is here now, quietly asking to be chosen. Most people live as if peace were conditional. They say, I'll be at peace when I get the job, when I find love, when I heal, when I have enough. But the moment those conditions are met, new ones appear. The mind invents another reason to postpone peace. The truth is, peace will never arrive as long as you keep chasing it outside yourself. It begins the instant you stop searching. Peace is not an outcome. It is a decision, a moment of surrender, where you choose stillness over struggle, understanding over control. Think of a lake at sunrise. The surface glows softly, undisturbed, reflecting the sky above. Then a single stone drops into it, and ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection. The water doesn't stop being calm, it simply holds the movement until it fades. Peace works the same way. It's not the absence of disturbance, it's the ability to hold disturbance without losing your reflection. Many people think peace means the absence of problems. But peace doesn't erase difficulty, it changes your relationship with it. It's the difference between standing in the middle of a storm and trying to fight the rain, versus standing in it and realizing you don't have to resist getting wet. Peace is the space within you that remains untouched no matter what happens around you. In a world obsessed with achievement, peace often feels like failure. We're taught to hustle, to compete, to prove ourselves endlessly. Stillness is mistaken for laziness, and surrender for weakness. But there's nothing weak about peace. It takes immense strength to remain calm when everything pulls you toward reaction. It takes courage to choose gentleness in a world that rewards aggression. It takes wisdom to step back when the ego wants to win. The mind constantly tells you that peace will come after success, after resolution, after change. But peace doesn't wait. It's available in every breath, every pause, every moment you choose not to fight with life. You don't need to have it all figured out to rest in peace. You only need to stop insisting that the world align with your expectations. There's a story about a monk and a traveler. The traveler asked, "Master, how do you find peace in a world full of suffering?" The monk smiled and said, "I stopped arguing with reality." The traveler frowned. "That can't be all." The monk replied, "When I argue with life, I lose. When I stop, I win." It's simple, but not easy. To stop arguing with reality is to stop believing that life owes you comfort. It's the decision to trust that even when things fall apart, you are not falling apart with them. The greatest obstacle to peace is not the chaos of the world. It's the noise within the voice that insists, this should not be happening. That voice wants control. It wants to mold life to its image of perfection. But peace doesn't come from control, it comes from trust. Trust that what's happening has a purpose beyond what you can see. Trust that you can meet this moment as it is, not as you wish it to be. Every time you choose peace, You reclaim your power. You are saying, I will not let the outside dictate my inner world. This is the highest form of freedom. Most people live as prisoners of circumstance, chained to every disappointment, every opinion, every outcome. Peace cuts those chains. It reminds you that while you cannot control events, you can always control your response. In Buddhist philosophy, the mind is like a candle flame in the wind, flickering, restless, fragile. Meditation teaches you to steady the flame, to find the still point in the movement. That stillness isn't created by removing the wind, it's cultivated by stabilizing the flame. Peace works the same way. You don't wait for the wind to stop blowing. You learn to stay centered despite it. There will always be noise, injustice, uncertainty, loss. The world will never run out of reasons to be angry or afraid. If peace depends on perfection, you will never know it. But if peace depends on awareness, on your ability to breathe, observe, and choose, you will carry it everywhere you go. There's a profound difference between happiness and peace. Happiness is tied to conditions, it rises and falls with circumstance. Peace, however, is unconditional. It doesn't depend on what you have, who loves you, or what tomorrow holds. Happiness is fleeting, peace is eternal. Happiness is emotional, peace is spiritual. When you stop chasing happiness and start cultivating peace, you discover a stability that no loss can shake. Peace doesn't ask you to withdraw from life. It asks you to meet life differently. You can still pursue goals, care deeply, work hard, but from a place of calm rather than desperation. When your actions rise from peace, they are infused with clarity. When they rise from fear, they create more chaos. A peaceful mind makes better decisions because it sees more clearly. The practice of peace is not grand or dramatic. It happens in small moments: the pause before reacting, the breath before replying, the decision not to feed anger when provoked. It's choosing silence over noise, patience over control, compassion over judgment. These are quiet victories, invisible to the world but transformative within. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is this: peace does not need your conditions. It only needs your permission. The moment you decide to stop fighting with the present moment, peace floods in. It doesn't ask you to fix anything, only to be still enough to see that nothing was broken except your perception. Peace is also an act of self-love. When you choose peace, you're saying, I deserve rest. I deserve clarity. I deserve to stop carrying the battles that aren't mine. It's a radical act in a society that measures worth by struggle. To be peaceful in a restless world is to resist the current of madness. It's to stand in your own presence and say, enough. Yet peace doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you feel everything without drowning in it. You can grieve and still be at peace. You can be uncertain and still be calm. You can be surrounded by conflict and still remain kind. Peace is not the denial of emotion, it's the awareness that holds emotion gently. It's the reminder that even pain is temporary, that even chaos has rhythm. There is a subtle but profound shift that happens when you begin to see peace as a choice rather than a reward. You stop waiting. You stop postponing your serenity for a future that never comes. You realize that peace is not a prize for those who have suffered enough, it's the natural state of those who have surrendered enough. It's not earned, it's remembered. You will lose peace many times. You'll get caught in the noise, tangled in expectations, pulled into arguments with life. But that's okay. Peace is patient. It waits quietly behind every reaction, ready to return the moment you pause and breathe. Each time you lose it, you learn how to find it faster. Eventually, it becomes your default, not because the world changed, but because you did. The mind is like a room full of clutter. Thoughts, fears, regrets, and desires pile up until there's no space left to breathe. Choosing peace is like opening the window. The air rushes in. You realize the room was never small, you had just filled it with too much. The same is true of your heart. Peace doesn't enter. It emerges when you make space for it. In moments of chaos, remind yourself, I have a choice. Between reaction and response lies freedom. Between noise and silence lies awareness. Between fear and trust lies peace. Every time you choose that space, you choose yourself. Peace also asks for acceptance, not resignation. Acceptance doesn't mean liking what is, it means allowing what is. It's saying, this too belongs. The moment you allow life to be as it is, you stop fighting reality, and reality stops fighting you. In that truce, peace blooms. To live in peace is not to live a small or easy life. It's to live with open eyes and a soft heart, no matter how harsh the world becomes. It's to walk through pain with grace, to meet uncertainty with faith, to answer cruelty with compassion. Peace is not weakness, it's mastery. It's the quiet power that nothing can shake because it no longer depends on anything. If you seek peace, stop looking outward. Sit quietly. Breathe deeply. Notice the stillness between thoughts. That silence you hear, it's not emptiness. It's the sound of your own soul remembering itself. And when you feel it, even for a moment, hold it not as an achievement, but as a homecoming. Because peace was never gone. It was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to stop running long enough to notice. So, when the next storm comes, and it will, don't ask for it to end. Ask for the strength to stay calm within it. Don't wait for life to be perfect. Choose peace now. In the middle of the mess, in the heart of the noise, in the ordinary moments that make up your days. Because peace is not found at the destination, it's created in the way you travel. Part 9. The Beauty of Emptiness. Learning to sit in the void. There is a silence that frightens most people. It's the silence that comes after something ends, the moment after the last goodbye, the night after a dream collapses, the quiet after the storm. In that stillness, everything familiar disappears. The laughter, the noise, the sense of who you were, all gone. What remains feels like nothingness, a hollow space too vast to name. We call it emptiness, and we spend our lives trying to avoid it. But what if emptiness is not a void to fear, but a space of infinite possibility? We live in a world that worships fullness. Full schedules, full houses, full hearts. We measure worth by accumulation: more money, more success, more followers, more meaning. We are addicted to being filled, terrified of absence. We equate emptiness with lack, with failure, with loneliness. But emptiness, in its truest form, is not lack. It is openness. It is space. It is freedom from everything that was never truly you. In the heart of Buddhist wisdom lies the understanding that emptiness, sunyata, is the essence of existence. Everything you see, everything you love, everything you fear, it all arises and passes away. Nothing has a fixed self. The flower blooms and wilts. The wave rises and falls. The breath comes and goes. This is not tragedy, it's the dance of life itself. When we cling to what is meant to change, we suffer. But when we see the beauty in impermanence, we begin to understand the gift of emptiness. There is a mountain lake in the Himalayas that only appears after the snow melts. For most of the year, it doesn't exist. Yet when the conditions are right, the water gathers, reflecting the sky in perfect stillness. When the seasons shift, it disappears again, leaving only dry land. The lake's beauty is in its transience. Its emptiness is not loss, it is renewal. Life is like that lake. Every moment arises, shines, and dissolves. If you can see the beauty in that, you will no longer fear the void. When something in your life ends, a relationship, a chapter, an identity, you stand at the edge of emptiness. The instinct is to fill it immediately. You reach for distractions, for noise, for something to occupy the space. But the void doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be felt. It needs to be honored. Because in that emptiness, something sacred is forming. Emptiness is where creation begins. Every masterpiece starts with a blank canvas. Every piece of music begins in silence. Every birth begins in darkness. The void is not the end, it's the beginning waiting in disguise. When everything you thought you were is stripped away, what's left is pure potential. It's terrifying because it's unfamiliar. But if you sit quietly long enough, you'll feel it, the gentle pulse of new life under the surface. Western culture often sees emptiness as despair, but in Eastern philosophy, it is liberation. To be empty is to be free from attachment, from story, from expectation. It is to exist without needing to be something. The mind hates this because the mind feeds on definition. It wants to say, I am this, I am that, but the soul knows it is vast beyond words. When you touch emptiness, you touch the truth of your nature, limitless, unconfined, eternal. Sitting in the void is not easy. The mind panics. It asks, who am I if I am not this role, this name, this relationship? The ego trembles because emptiness means it cannot hold on to control. But if you can breathe through that fear, if you can rest in the uncertainty without running, something profound happens. You begin to see that emptiness isn't nothing, it's everything. It's the space in which all things arise. Without emptiness there would be no form, no creation, no life. Think of a cup. Its usefulness lies not in its shape, but in its emptiness. A cup full of water can quench your thirst, but only because there is space to hold the water. In the same way, your soul must remain empty enough to receive life. When you are too full of opinions, memories, and noise, there is no room for grace to enter. Emptiness is the invitation that allows life to pour in. In the depth of meditation, when thought falls silent, what remains is pure awareness, an emptiness that feels infinite and alive. It's not the emptiness of loneliness, it's the emptiness of wholeness. It's as if the boundaries between you and the universe dissolve. There is no I or you, no this or that. There is only being. To experience this even for a moment is to glimpse peace beyond understanding. The beauty of emptiness is that it teaches you to stop chasing. You realize you don't have to grasp at life for meaning. You can let it unfold. You can let people come and go. You can let experiences begin and end without needing to own them. When you live from this space, love becomes purer, freer. You no longer love out of need, you love because love itself flows through you. Emptiness also reveals truth. When the noise of thought subsides, illusions fall away. You begin to see how much of what you believed was never real. You see that many of your fears were born from stories your mind created. You see that even pain, when stripped of narrative, is simply energy moving through you. The void becomes a mirror, showing you the difference between what is true and what is imagined. There is a strange peace in realizing that you don't have to hold everything together. The world does not collapse because you stop trying to control it. Life continues, endlessly creative, endlessly renewing. You begin to trust the natural rhythm of things. You learn that letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means giving space. And in that space, everything finds its place again. Emptiness can feel lonely at first because we are so accustomed to being defined by connection, by doing, by belonging. But loneliness is not the same as aloneness. Loneliness says, something is missing. Aloneness says, nothing is missing. I am enough. When you sit in the void long enough, loneliness dissolves into aloneness, and aloneness blossoms into peace. You realize that emptiness was never empty, it was full of presence. There's an old Zen koan that says, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The answer is silence. The question is not meant to be solved, but to reveal the limits of logic. The mind seeks duality, this or that, yes or no, but emptiness transcends duality. It is not one or the other, it is both and neither. It is the silence before the sound and the sound within the silence. To learn to sit in emptiness is to make peace with mystery. You stop demanding answers and start trusting experience. You stop asking, "What's next?" and start resting in what is. You realize that life doesn't owe you explanation, it offers revelation in its own time. The void is not a question to be solved, it is a space to be entered. When you sit quietly, without distraction, you begin to notice the subtle hum of existence, the pulse of your breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the stillness beneath the noise. That stillness is the doorway to emptiness. Step through it, and you'll find that nothing is missing. The world doesn't end in emptiness, it begins there. Even death, the ultimate void we fear, is not an end but a transformation. The form dissolves, but the essence remains. The wave returns to the ocean, but the ocean never ceases. Emptiness is not death, it is the eternal space in which birth and death take place. When you finally embrace emptiness, you begin to live differently. You stop filling your life with distractions. You start cherishing silence. You learn to rest without guilt, to breathe without striving, to simply exist without needing to prove your worth. You become spacious, like the sky, able to hold everything yet attached to nothing. From that space, beauty becomes deeper. You start seeing the sacred in the ordinary, the shadow on the wall, the sound of the wind, the pause between words. You no longer need grand meaning because meaning is everywhere. The void, once terrifying, becomes the most intimate companion, a constant reminder that life's fullness is born from its emptiness. When you can sit in the void without fear, you become unshakable. Nothing can be taken from you, because you no longer cling to anything. Nothing can break you, because you no longer resist change. The emptiness inside you becomes the ground of your being, vast enough to hold the entire world. So, when life empties itself again, and it will, don't rush to fill the space. Don't run from the silence. Sit in it. Listen. Let the emptiness teach you. It will whisper to you that what you thought was loss is simply transformation, that what feels like the end is only a pause in the music. If you listen long enough, you will hear the truth that everything comes from nothing and returns to nothing, and that this nothing is not void, it is love in its purest, most expansive form. And when you know that, you will no longer fear the empty spaces in your life. You will welcome them. You will see them not as absence, but as invitation. Because emptiness is not the end of your story, it is the canvas on which your next chapter begins. Part X, Coming Home. Healing begins when you stop running. At some point in your life, you will grow tired of running. Not the kind of running that moves your feet, but the kind that keeps your soul restless, the constant search for something. Anything that will finally make you feel whole. You will realize that for years, maybe for decades, you've been chasing peace like a mirage, in people, in success, in distraction, in forgiveness, in explanations that never come. But peace has always been in the one place you've avoided most, inside yourself. The journey of healing begins not when you find something new, but when you finally stop running from what has always been here. We run from silence because it confronts us with truth. We run from love because it asks us to be vulnerable. We run from pain because it mirrors our fears. We run from ourselves because facing who we are feels heavier than the life we've built to escape it. But running never takes you away from your pain, it only carries it with you. The shadow you flee follows you, no matter how far you go. You can change your address, your job, your relationships, even your name, but until you stop, until you turn around and face what you've been avoiding, you will keep reliving the same ache in different forms. Coming home to yourself also means embracing your wholeness. The world teaches you to divide yourself, to love your light, and reject your shadow. But wholeness means welcoming it, all your strength and your weakness, your courage and your fear, your joy and your grief. Healing doesn't come from becoming perfect, it comes from becoming whole. The parts you've exiled are waiting for your love, not your judgment. In deep meditation, when the mind grows quiet, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a sense of belonging that has nothing to do with place or people. It's the realization that you are already home, that you were never separate from life to begin with. The trees, the sky, the breath moving through you, they are not around you, they are you. To come home is to dissolve the illusion of separation, to rest in the awareness that everything you've ever sought is already within you. Healing begins the moment you stop trying to become and start allowing yourself to be. It begins when you stop waiting for someone else to save you and realize that you were never lost. It begins when you stop measuring your worth by what you achieve and remember that your existence alone is sacred. There's a peace that comes not from answers but from acceptance. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, "It happened, and now I am here." You stop fighting the story and start living it with grace. You realize that every chapter, every heartbreak, every failure, every silence was part of the journey home. When you finally stop running, you will find that life meets you halfway. The people, the opportunities, the healing you once chased begin to appear naturally. It's not magic, it's alignment. When you are at peace within, life flows toward you instead of away from you. The universe responds to presence. Coming home doesn't mean you'll never hurt again. It means you'll face pain with awareness instead of fear. You'll let it pass through instead of burying it. You'll see it as part of the rhythm of being alive. You'll stop chasing peace and start embodying it. You'll stop seeking love and start radiating it. You'll stop demanding clarity and start living in wonder. And one day, in a quiet moment, you'll realize that the home you've been searching for isn't a place or a person or a purpose. It's a presence. It's the stillness behind your breath, the light behind your eyes, the awareness watching it all. It's the part of you that never left and never will. When you rest in that awareness, you no longer fear endings. You no longer crave beginnings. You simply are whole, awake, at peace. You've returned to the source, to the truth, to yourself. And in that return, healing is complete. When we look back over this journey from the first steps of facing pain to the final moment of coming home, we begin to see that everything we once called suffering was never working against us. It was shaping us, refining us, and guiding us back to truth. Each chapter of this story learning to let go, flowing like the river, embracing stillness, surrendering to silence, seeing ourselves as the sky has been a gradual unveiling of the same message. Peace was never something to find. It was something to remember. We discovered that the storms of life, the losses, the heartbreaks, and the silences were not interruptions to the path, they were the path. They broke us open only so that light could enter. Through the teachings of emptiness, we learned that nothing in this world is meant to be owned, not even our pain. We realized that freedom comes not from control, but from allowing. That the fire which once terrified us was, in truth, our greatest teacher, burning away illusion and leaving behind only what is real. We came to see that the peace we sought in the outer world, in success, in relationships, in achievements, was always fleeting, because true peace has no conditions. It's not a reward for surviving the storm. It's the stillness within the storm itself. The beauty of this journey is not that we arrive somewhere new, but that we awaken to what has always been here. Beneath the noise, the fear, the endless chasing, there is a silence so vast and alive that it holds everything: the joy, the sorrow, the loss, and the love. That silence is who we are. The river taught us to let go, the fire taught us to transform, The emptiness taught us to trust the void, and the stillness taught us to return home. In the end, everything we ran from, pain, uncertainty, impermanence, became the very doorway to awakening. The deeper lesson is simple yet profound. Peace is a practice, not a promise. It is a choice we make in every breath, every moment, every day. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can choose how you meet it, with resistance or with grace. You can choose to cling or to release. You can choose to run or to stop and face yourself. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about seeing it with new eyes. When you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. When you open your hands, everything you were holding too tightly finds its place again. Some things stay, others drift away, but peace remains. In today's world, so fast, so noisy, so full of distraction, the wisdom of letting go and coming home is more relevant than ever. You can begin right now. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath. Notice that beneath all your thoughts, all your worries, there is a quiet awareness watching it all. That awareness is your home. Return to it whenever you forget. Return to it when you feel lost. Return to it when you think you must become something more. You already are enough, exactly as you are. Now I want to ask you, what does peace mean to you? Do you believe it is something we find, or something we create within ourselves? How do you let go when life feels too heavy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your wisdom may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this journey touched your heart, please subscribe to Buddhism in Every Moment. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content that inspires healing, awareness, and inner peace for everyone walking this same beautiful, difficult, sacred path of life.